4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, let's go. Council will come to order. All rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, our servicemen and servicewomen, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Here. Condon. Here. Crow. Linehan. McDonald.
She's here. Linehan's here.
Murphy. Here. O'Malley. Here. Sika. Here. Simonelli. Here. Winslow. Spatafora.
Spatafora here. First order of business. Oh, my computer's not even on here.
First order of business on the guest citizen achievements. Representative of the City Clerk's Office and the Board of Registrar Voters appear before the City Council to discuss continuing efforts to make elections more accessible to Chinese-speaking voters. And at this point, I'll go down there. We got Carol Ann Diner and Jean Voltaire.
Do you know the password to this computer? Got it. All right, sorry about that. It's just council. I'll just read this when the clerk is going down. Under the provision of open meeting law, for those in attendance, please be informed that UMA, Urban Media Arts, or Malden TV, formerly known as, will be recording this event. So just be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. First order of business. I will turn it over once my computer goes on. Council Winslow, the computer's restarting. So I know this was your paper resolved that was passed. Paper 6522 was resolved, submitted by Council Winslow on March 1st. The agenda to have the guest speaker, which was the clerk's office. The paper was passed unanimously vote, and now we'll hear from the clerk's, Lucy's work in his office to make elections more accessible to the Chinese-speaking population. Councilor Winslow, I can't get this, it's still resetting here, so if you want to just try to turn your mic on, and I will work on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thanks for focusing the clerk's office and elections coming out tonight. I know as our population of AAPI has grown from 5% to 30%, this has been an increasing issue. And I know we've made great strides, and with another state election coming up, we just thought it was important to know where we're at coming in and how our compliance with various requirements are and what additional efforts we'll be making for this upcoming state election. So thank you for coming out. Thanks.
Any questions? Okay, Clerk Lucy.
So first I'd like to introduce, many of you may not know it, you know that we did a little reorganization in my office. You know by now that Carol Ann is now the Assistant City Clerk. But we also had hired, clap over there, that's always good. We also hired Dinah Fajato as the election administrator. We changed the name from Assistant Register of Voters to Election Administrator. Dinah is not only bilingual, she's bicultural. She was a poll worker for 7 years. She got hired in the clerk's office in January. So Dinah was very familiar to us, but she took Carol Ann's position, although we have the good fortune of not only having Carol Ann as the Assistant City Clerk, but her knowledge, training Dinah, which if anyone that's come up in my office knows, you know, how much Carol Ann knows about the election. So Dinah's in good hands. And I also have Jean Voltaire, who's the chair of the Register of Voters here tonight. So what I thought we'd do is, we did put together, a kind of a bulletproof, bullet point presentation. Carol Ann's gonna go through the bullet points, and then what we'll do is, no, we're not, that's all right. And what we'll do is we're more than happy to take questions afterwards, so. Carol Ann.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, counselors. Thank you for having us tonight. So I thought we would just kind of give you a little, go back a little bit and give you a rewind of what we've been working on so far in regards to making the elections a little bit more friendly for the Chinese voting population. So you should know to begin with that the clerk's office under the leadership of Mayor Christensen has been meeting on a monthly basis since 2020. Actually, it started during COVID with GMAC, Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition, as well as representatives from Greater Boston Legal Services to talk about how we can kind of come together and serve the community a little bit more. They really have their thumb on the pulse of the Asian American community, so their input has been really, really helpful to us. The meetings go back further than that with the mayor, but we jumped in 2020. And additionally, we also started meeting with the mayor, our office, bi-monthly, to kind of talk about how we can do things a little bit better in-house. So there's been a constant flow of communication between our office and the mayor and the community. Those meetings with the mayor also have included Bibios La Rochelle and Elena Martinez, our new language access coordinator. She's given us, both of them have given us so much help and a lot of insight as to how we can kind of do things a little bit better, a little bit more coordinated. I can tell you that at the state and the city level, we have all of our forward-facing voting information, both in English and written in Chinese. And so those materials include signage and voter registration forms, absentee ballot applications, vote by mail applications, affidavits, affidavit envelopes, provisional ballot information. So all that kind of stuff, anything that you might need when you go to vote, or you want to learn how to vote, or you want to register to vote, all of that stuff is bilingual already. So we're just kind of continuing to push that information out. We have that posted on our city website. We have hard copies of that in our office. I know that I've served all of you guys voter registration forms in multiple languages for when you're out knocking doors and things like that, so you're familiar with that. We have links to all of this stuff on our city website as well, both in English and in Chinese. We use the city website to push out this information. We also use multiple forms of social media, so Twitter, Facebook, and WeChat to circulate this information out to our people. And then also just to give you an update onto the home rule petition that you guys sent to the state in order to get our ballots, transliteration of our ballots done. That is in with the Senate right now. So their session goes until July 30th. I'm not sure if we're gonna see anything come back before July 30th. It's only a month away before they end. We do not expect this either way to get passed in time for the November election. So be on the lookout, hopefully maybe with the municipal election in 2023. Even though the names on our ballots are not transliterated, the wording itself is bilingual, which you know because you've seen the ballots. It's been that way since about 2017, I think. I think we hit that 5% mark in 2016, and then federal government contacted us and let us know. So from that point forward, our ballots have been bilingual since then. We also got a lot of support from the federal government and the Justice Department back then. They came to Malden, they worked with us, they helped us with our forms, they walked through our precincts on multiple elections, they had sit-down meetings with us, telephone meetings with us to give us some guidance, and they said, we're gonna keep coming back until we feel like you guys are doing this okay. And thankfully, they were only here a year or two, and then they said, okay, we think you got this covered. So although we're meeting our criteria, we want to be able to now like exceed expectations and just kind of kick it up and make sure we're doing it really, really well from this point out. So that's how we got here. That's where we are right now, Councilor Winslow. Things that we're working on right now for the near and long-term future. Number one, first and foremost, always poll workers. It's an ongoing process trying to get poll workers of any nationality, but obviously we're pushing for bilingual poll workers. We have a goal this summer to hire at least 66 new poll workers, which will help us to staff the additional precincts, because we now have 27 precincts, as you know, with the redistricting. So that's a minimum of 66 new people that we're looking to bring on. Dinah is leading that charge right now, so thank you for all of the organization that you're doing. She's collecting applications every day. We've put out Help Wanted flyers, and they're written in English and Chinese, and so we're kind of working on that right now. We're trying really, really hard to have poll workers reflect the voting population here in Malden. It's a challenge, and it's something that's not just a Malden challenge, it's a Massachusetts challenge, it's a national challenge. There's poll workers everywhere. It's really, really hard to find them. But in the 20 brand new poll workers that we brought on in the past couple of weeks, I can tell you 5 of them speak Mandarin, Cantonese, or a combination of both. And then we have also Greek, Spanish, and Portuguese reflected in 5 of the other, some of the other candidates that we have as well. So, with that being said, having at least one Chinese-speaking poll worker in every precinct may not be something that we actually can fulfill, even though it's always the goal. So what we've come up with is, we think, a technological aid that will help us with that. And this was brought to us. I'm going to introduce this little gadget to you. If you haven't seen this yet, it's called the Pocket Talk. And I'm kind of new to this as well. This was brought to us by Elena Martinez. And the way this works is that you turn it on, and you can tell it which language you want to speak in and which language you want it to translate to. So, as Elena has told me, I'm learning so much from her. She's awesome. If you don't know her, go see her, because she's wonderful. The first point of contact is language recognition. We can't figure out how to serve you if we don't know what language you speak. So she's coming up with this card. I apologize, please don't take this personally, counselors, but I promised her I would not share this with you because it's a really, really rough preliminary draft. But this is what she calls the language ID I Speak card. The idea of this card is that it says, in multiple languages, point to your language and an interpreter will be called. It's written in each language, and then it tells us in English which language they're pointing to. So we can say, okay, you speak Cantonese. So then we can we can bring up this little thing here, and the way it works is that, you know, you scroll through. It's got 70 languages, so we can talk in almost anything that we might be presented with at the polling location. So the poll worker would hold this down and say, "Please state your name."
Twisted your name.
Sorry. Of course it would do this. So it's enough to get the basic information with some dialogue started between the voter and the poll worker. And then at least we can nail down the language that we're talking in. We can open some dialogue in their language. And then if we need to go a little bit further, we can call members at City Hall to say, I need some more detailed information. We've got, you know, multilingual speakers in City Hall, so we can always pick up the phone and get more information that way. But this is a preliminary way to at least open a dialogue in those precincts where we don't have Chinese-speaking poll workers. Obviously, human contact is always the goal, but when we can't have human contact, technology is the answer, and this is our answer right now. You're gonna see this roll out in City Hall very soon, because the mayor is gonna start using this actually with the departments. And then, hopefully, it'll be a success, and we'll move forward, and we'll use it on Election Day as well. So thank you to Elena for introducing this gadget to us. In addition to that, she is workshopping a number of different educational opportunities throughout the community, because she wants to help people to understand not just the how of voting, but the why of voting. So you've got people coming from not just China, but countries all over the world to America and to Malden, and some of them are actually escaping countries where they're trying to get away from their government, and then they come to Malden and we tell them, We want you to vote and get involved in your government, and they don't understand maybe why. There may be governmental trauma there that we don't understand, and so part of these educational opportunities is not only helping us to understand our voters, but also helping the voters to understand why it's okay and it's safe and it's a good thing to get involved with local government. This is what this means to you. This is what this election might mean in simplified terms that they can understand. And so we're going to be working with Elena throughout the city, as I said, with these community groups and maybe some of our housing units and some of our senior buildings to kind of open that language and that dialogue. Another way that we have been recommended for us to make things a little bit easier for people is to take one of our pages on the City of Malden website. If you go to cityofmalden.org, our clerk page has got a lot of information about how to vote and where to vote and some of the really deep details about elections, but we also need to kind of pull back on some of the deeper details and just make the information a little bit more bite-sized and a little bit easier for people who are just kind of learning the process. And so one of the ways that we will do that is we'll rewrite the Voting in Malden page on the city website utilizing guidelines for the Plain Writing Act of 2010 that was signed in by President Obama. And that is an act just saying like governmental agencies need to kind of simplify the language because not everybody's got a law degree. Laws are hard to understand and they're hard to read if you don't know how to read them. And so this act just kind of helps us to know some guidelines of how to make things a little bit more understandable for people at all different levels of government. So we'll be working on that as kind of a longer term project. That's what I have right now in regards to your specific question about our Chinese voters in the city of Malden. I can also just give you a couple very quick updates about what's happening in our office. We're very excited that next week we'll be getting our new voting machines. After 30 years, we finally updated our equipment, so look out for new voting machines. We're gonna be doing training on all levels of our staff and poll workers during the months of July and August. Those voting machines will not be different to utilize them if you're a voter. It will be the same ballot, it'll be the same putting it in, it takes it in, it reads it the same way. The voters won't be really affected at all, but it might look a little bit different. So if you get questions about that, you know, we're open to explaining how those work. Also, as the new fiscal year kicks in, our poll worker stipends are being increased to $185, $220, and $250, depending if you're an inspector, a clerk, or a warden. We also will now be paid training for the first time ever, which we're really happy about because previous to this, poll workers really just came to City Hall on their own time, nothing in it for them except maybe we bought them a pizza or whatever to do their training a couple times a year. Running elections really is a show of civic duty and it's a labor of love and it takes a lot of work. So for us to be able to support our poll workers and kind of encourage that a little bit more, being able to pay them for training and a little bit of a higher stipend for a very, very long day, we're happy to say that we can do that. So those are a couple things that we're excited about that are coming up in the very near future. I think that's all I have right now. I would entertain any questions for the clerk or our new elections official?
Councilor Karen Colon Hayes is first. Councilor Karen Colon Hayes, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. That was fantastic to hear all of those updates. And I agree with you about Elena Martinez. Glad to know that she's up and running so fast. Welcome, Dina, and to the department. So you actually, when I pushed the button, I had some questions, but you answered some of them, except for a few. So one, I was going to ask what the fee was. I would love to work to try and help build up poll workers. I could do that. Is there an age limit?
So there is an age limit to be a poll worker. We are allowed to utilize a certain amount of 16 and 17-year-old poll workers. So anybody over the age of 18, there is no residency requirement, but there is a voting requirement. You have to be a registered voter, unless you're 16 or 17 years old. In that case, we are allowed not only to pay underage students a stipend to work that day, but we're also allowed to give them community service hours. So that's a double benefit for kids who want to get involved, and so that's a nice benefit. We like to let them know about that.
That's excellent. And I love that you're paying, that was one of my questions, do you pay for training? Is there training?
We do now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So thank you for that update. I will definitely help put the word out. It's so important, you know, that everything is covered, so thank you.
So we also, Counselor, we also have a brand-new help wanted flyer. The mayor's office helped us to spruce up what we used in the past. It's got a QR code now, so wherever you are, you can just kind of scan it. Takes you directly to our website. It's in English and then another version completely in Chinese. And so I actually sent it to Lisa Cagno to ask her
think
if
I-
she would help distribute it to all you guys. So you'll probably be getting that in an email very soon.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Counsel. Counselor Carrie McDonald.
Yeah, thank you. This is a really excellent plan that I've heard from you all, and I really appreciate the points about helping people understand what our system of government is. What does a mayor or a city council or a school board member or a school committee member do? I think that's really important, and I appreciate the points about plain language, which are so important for accessibility. And it does make sense in English. It's definitely not going to make sense when you translate it into, you know, Chinese, Vietnamese, et cetera. So I just really appreciate those points. I wanted to make one short suggestion and then ask a question. My short suggestion is that you should come up with some pretty standard phrases to use the auto-translate. In my experience using auto-translate, even just to open a conversation, it really helps to make sure that you kind of test out the phrases you want to translate. So if somebody says, please state your name for the record, that may translate very weird into Cantonese. But if you say, what is your name, that might translate more directly. So like test it and then have a list of phrases that your poll workers can use so that they don't get weird, garbled things out the other
I'm glad you
end.
brought that up, Counselor, because it actually does, I don't know if you can see this, but if you scroll down, you can save popular phrases in there.
Yeah.
And then just go back and hit
Yes.
the ones that you commonly use all the time. And so it does actually have the feature that you're talking about right now. And yeah, so.
Just help people know what to start with so they can get a better output out the other
Exactly right,
end.
yep.
My question was, so the state of Massachusetts now allows mail-in voting going forward, right? And I wanted to know how that impacts your plan. My perspective on this would be, it's easier to help people when you have more time, and that everything, you know, basically the more people you can help before Election Day, the easier it is on staff and volunteers on Election Day. So how does, you know, are you thinking about encouraging mail-in voting across language barriers, or how is the mail-in, you know, the permanence of mail-in voting going to affect your thinking?
It's a good question. That's why I think you're already seeing commercials done by the Secretary of State. We're committed to at least a couple occasions going out into the public, the senior buildings or the senior center. You know, we were going to do that prior to COVID, but we only made one building because you couldn't get into the buildings.
Right.
So, you know, we encouraged, you know, we found that even in the, when they first did the mail-in ballots, I think Carolyn will even admit, we didn't know what to expect. Back in 2020, we kind of did everything in August. If you remember that, we weren't staffed properly. We got everything done, but it was, you know, 2 or 3 people working weekends, not enough poll workers, not enough people. So we learned by that. So November, you know, through the city giving us extra money, we actually staffed 2 weeks prior to it was so much easier in November, even though there was probably 17,000 or over 17,000 ballots we took in. We were properly staffed, so we were able to, by Election Day, those votes were already, you know, already tabulated. So that's how we'll do it again. Outreaches, that's what we, you know, we rely on people like yourselves. You know, this is the, as the GMAC said, asked us about our election division. That was before Dinah came on, we were on a Zoom. I said, it's basically me and Carolyn.
This is the
So this is the election division, so we need help. So anything you guys can do, you know, we stress poll workers, because if we can get the bilingual poll workers at enough sites, you know, it saves us a lot of issues on Election Day. And it's just so much easier. You know, the early voting, I saw it because we were down there on the weekends. You know, having an Asian speaking or a Spanish speaking person, you're gonna get those times when people are gonna come, they're gonna need it, and you can just see how much of a benefit it is. So, you know, we rely on public outreach from the public officials as well. All the people running in this election, the state reps, state senators, you know, you know, everything, you know, do some outreach with us. That's what we rely on.
I'd be happy to collaborate on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I just make a note about mail-in ballots? Just, people should know, because I know there's a lot of debate out there about mail-in ballots. They are safe. They are safer than you think they are.
Thank you.
We go to great lengths to make sure that we are doing our due diligence with our applications and double checking that these people are registered and we've got up-to-date addresses and all that kind of stuff. All of those ballots get mailed out. They get hand processed. But the post office also has something now called informed delivery that people can sign up for. I'm saying this for the benefit of the public. If you sign up for informed delivery through the post office website, it will tell you when you have mail being delivered to your house, and it actually scans your mail and shows you what's in your mailbox or what's been removed from your mailbox on its way back to City Hall. And that's a great way to track your ballots. The Secretary of State also has a Track My Ballot website. So there's multiple ways to show that we are doing the very best we can, and mail-in ballots are safer than people think. So don't knock it till you tried it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Murphy.
Mr. President. And I'm absolutely thrilled to hear about the increase in stipends. I know that's something Clerk Lucy and I had worked on about a year ago, so it's really great to see that this has come through because it is an extremely long day. You might give the hours when they show up, Carol Ann?
So our poll workers report for duty at 6 a.m. Polls open at 7, they stay open till 8 o'clock at night, and then they still have to close and clean up. So they're not getting out of there from 6 a.m. till 10, 11 o'clock sometimes. During the presidential election, it can be even worse than that. So it's an extremely long day, like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the minimum.
Right, and so that increase in stipends certainly is well-deserved. And the other thing that I just wanted to comment on was the fact that when you say you're working with GMAC in meeting monthly, I would assume that you're working with them also on having them do outreach for poll workers for you?
We have asked them.
Yeah, we do. So part of the meeting was we talk about a lot of things, and I think every meeting we've ever had, we've always suggested, get us some poll workers. We know we have, you know, you certainly have a better, more of a sea of people than we do. It's a commitment by them and a commitment to us, but every meeting, that's part of the meeting. Please get us some help, get us some
Because
poll
it would
workers.
seem that would be a great resource to try to reach into that community to try to actually get a poll worker for every precinct. Because now that we have all our new precincts, yeah.
Yeah, so we feel that, you know, if you couldn't do it every precinct, as long as you had one in every building. So we probably have 13 polling places now with the Moose and the 14.
Right.
So, you know, if we could at least have 14, you know, we can get by. But there's other languages out there too, so it's just not
Right.
the age and population, you know. I can tell you in our office, up in the clerk's office, the amount of having Dinah and Tatiana up there speaking, you know, other languages they speak, it's a tremendous help. So there is other languages out we're trying to consider as well, so. But, you know, that's what we're trying to do.
And just one last question, just because for the edification of everyone, even the people at home, could you just explain the structure of the poll workers in the precincts? So you have, as you said,
Good.
So we have 4 inspectors, and the inspectors work 2 on the check-in table and 2 in the checkout table. Those are the guys you go in, they take your address, they give you your ballot, and then they check you out when you're leaving. So those are the inspectors. Then we have a clerk in every precinct, and the clerk is there to help the warden with inactive voters, filling out applications, affidavits if you're an inactive voter, checking your ID if you're an inactive voter, things like that. So the clerk helps with the running of the paperwork and kind of what we call the tough situations. And then the warden oversees the entire precinct. They help with the setup in the morning, the breakdown at night, they do the paperwork, they make sure, because we have checks and balances through every step of the election process, so the warden works closely with our office to make sure that we sent you 32 absentee ballots, you've checked in 32 absentee ballots, you put 32 absentee ballots into the voting machine, that kind of stuff. So there's some math at the end of the night and there's some paperwork, so they kind of help us to oversee those checks and balances. And then obviously we also have a precinct officer to help us maintain law and order and complete control of the precinct, so there's 6 or 7 workers in every precinct. That would be the overall structure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Murphy. Council Clerk.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say, really thank you for all your hard work. And it is clear that, every year you really do sort of solidify the foundation to make sure that every election day goes smoothly. And I do agree, like the personal touch, when you're having someone there to help. But I really think it's wonderful to be able to really utilize technology and starting early to make sure that technology works, because it's only as good as the day it works. But really to expand that access to not only the Chinese, but all the other languages too, and bringing on people that speak other languages. My only question was that I know that is quite a long day. I'm exhausted thinking about that. Do you have an opportunity, what if someone wanted to do a half a day, that can do 6 to whatever, is that an option, or is that, sorry?
Well, we haven't done that yet, but we have talked about it. It's certainly something you can do. There's nothing saying you couldn't do it.
Right.
But we just never really implemented it.
Mostly for the reason that if you have somebody who work the morning shift, you need somebody to work the night shift. So instead of 60 workers, we're now looking for 120. So, but we
Good
do
point.
we have had situations where we've had poll workers work together to say, can you do the morning and I'll trade off with you? And so that works, they're both trained, and so that's okay. So in that case, it's not like we won't allow it, it's just that it means twice as many bodies that you need
True.
to staff. So it's not unheard of.
I think Carolyn will tell you the most hectic day is like the couple days, but when you think you have all the poll workers in place,
Oh, yeah?
then you get to 2 days before the election and there's 6 or 7 that can't come, and then the next day there's 5 or 6, and then election day there's, all of a sudden you're down 20 election poll workers, and then you're scrambling, you got to make people wardens, and it's chaotic. But I'm confident, and I think Caroline's confident, and Dinah and Jean, that there's a lot of outreach going on now, that even though, it was always a challenge getting 96 poll workers, now the challenge is 66 more. I'm confident that, the trend we're going, that I think we're gonna get there. I really do. And now just the hope is that we get, people speaking the multiple language.
Excellent. Really, just thank you. Welcome aboard, Dinah, and, thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just be brief. I just want to commend you on all the fine work that you've done on this. I know that I'm up in your office 3-4 times a week, and I see you're always at the window helping people. So where you found time to do all this, I have no idea, but you did a great job, and keep up the good work. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Council Simonelli. Sorry. Thank you, Council Simonelli. Any other lights? Seeing no other lights, anything else from the speakers? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. No? Okay.
Any public comment up there? Okay. Next order of business.
Next order of business is public comment. There was no one that signed in on the sheet at the podium, but I have 2 emails. First one, please accept this public comment on item 312-22 on the June 28th agenda. The agenda item relates to a citizen participation meeting called for by residents concerning Roosevelt Park. Language for the warning notice was clear from the petition, is signed by approximately 100 residents. This is what the petition stated. Yes, I request a citizen participation meeting as described in Section 31 of Malden City Charter. As a result, I would like to consult upon the public good, to instruct our representatives, and to take a lawful means to obtain and redress our grievances. My grievances arise from the actions, plans, and expenditures by the city related to Roosevelt Park Improvement Project. My signature and the address where I now live are provided below in support for the citizen participation meeting. The language of this petition, as signed by qualified voters and submitted city officials, should be used for notice of the meeting. Why would anyone take a year-old notice from some other meetings as suggested by paper 312-22? Please vote in opposition of the proposed resolve in the actions it recommends. The city charter is clear that the mayor and city council have a duty to publish notification of this citizen participation meeting. Required notices include setting forth the purposes of the meeting according to the residents' instructions, not the preferred wording of council members. Once the date and time and place have been finalized, I believe this meeting should be noticed just as a typical public hearing. Proper notification would include publishing a meeting notice to the City of Malden website, the city's Facebook page, City of Malden Newsflash, and Civic Plus email notification. Appropriate meeting notices should also be prepared by the city with advertising in the Advocate and the other local news outlets, as well as posted in government buildings. Please vote against paper 312-22. City officials should not take the proposed steps to inhibit, prohibit, or limit the right of the people of Malden to assemble in a manner according to the city charter. City officials should not take steps to alter or abridge the freedoms of residents to speak on this matter in order to redress their well-known grievances. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Brian DeLacy, 1 Earl Street, Malden. And my public comment is for docket item 312-22 on the June 28th agenda. This agenda item refers to a citizen participation meeting called for by the Friends of Roosevelt Park and 100 Malden residents concerning Roosevelt Park. We know that the City Council would never do anything to harm the First Amendment rights of these 100 residents who have petitioned to hold a citizen participation meeting. The docket item here only further minimizes the public participation in this bipartisan process of improving our city parks. Stopping this citizen participation meeting on Roosevelt Park from moving forward would be an egregious display of anti-democratic behavior. It would also be a violation of the city's charter. You may not like the idea of a citizen participation meeting, but it's legal and allowable as decreed by Malden City Charter. Lisette Alvarado, 492 Pleasant Street.
Give you a second to catch your breath there, Clerk Lucy.
I'm good.
Next order of business.
Paper 311-22, minutes of the meeting of June 21st, 2022.
On Councilor Winslow's motion. Usually does it, I want to keep it going. I didn't see any edits, correct? No edits, right? Amendments or changes? Okay, on Councilor Winslow's motion to approve the minutes, all in favor? All opposed? Item is approved. All in, 11-0. Next order of business.
Paper 312-22, resolved that the City Council hereby designates the notice, procedures, and meetings to be held under the June 2021 Public Involvement Plan for Roosevelt Park as the warning notice and general meetings to fulfill written requests by citizens under Section 31 of the Malden City Charter related to such project, and request that city staff ensure that the qualified voters signing such requests be informed of any public involvement meeting as they occur.
So the sponsors are Councilor Winslow and Councilor Murphy. Councilor Winslow for the paper. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I put in this resolve, we got this notice, I think, on Wednesday last week, so there was a very short amount of time. And knowing that we only had one more council meeting before the summer, I just wanted to put a paper in. If we had more meetings before the end of the summer, it would have, taken a little more time. But as the charter, I'll read the charter provision for folks, just to know what, it's pretty broad. Let me get it out here, just to understand a little bit of, so this is Section 31, Citizens Participation. General meetings of the citizens qualified to vote may from time to time be held to consult upon the public good, to instruct their representatives, and to take all lawful means to obtain redress for any grievances according to the rights secured to the people by the Constitution of the Commonwealth, and such meetings may and shall be duly warned by the mayor and city council upon their request in writing, setting forth the purpose thereof of 50 qualified voters. So that's the part of our charter. It was adopted in 1881. This goes back to, even the time of the, Massachusetts Constitution, 1780. It's basically looking that, people have the right to assemble, and that under our charter, we as a council and the mayor have a responsibility to help facilitate that. So that's basically it. We do have a public involvement plan that was set up for to address really the issues that come up around the removal of the contamination of the site. We did have a pretty extensive conversation, Councilor Murphy and I, with the mayor's staff today, and I think, basically I have a kind of a proposed kind of amendment based on that discussion. There's still things forming on the project, so and in discussing, how the public involvement plan interrelates with, where the project is at. We kind of came up with a different approach. It doesn't necessarily make sense to have the public involvement plan be the meeting, because it's the next planned meeting could be several months out on that. So the thought was, perhaps as a council, we should just call on the mayor to plan this meeting, by the end of summer. So that was kind of the discussion that, and there, that would be, my recommendation would just be that because the project, there's sort of some timing things that it's really, the staff really has to help make judgments on that. It really would make sense for the council sort of to defer to the mayor as to the location and the timing of the meeting. So that would be, I have some different language. I would propose that this would be the language that the city council acknowledges receipt of the request for a general meeting by the citizens under Section 31 of the city charter related to Roosevelt Field. Excuse me, and hereby calls on the mayor to schedule such meeting by the end of the summer and otherwise defers to the mayor related to the time, place, manner, and notice procedure. So that's really it, is the, I think knowing that we're not necessarily gonna meet anytime soon, it just makes sense that we acknowledge the receipt of this, and it makes sense that the mayor and his team help, arrange the appropriate time and place for the meeting. So that's the discussions we have, so yeah.
So Council I'm reading what the original, is that amendment you're making a change in the floor? Is that what
That's my proposal. Like I say, that my proposal would be to recommend an amendment.
Okay.
So that would be it, so yeah.
So, allow discussion? Because I see Councilman
I don't know if
O'Malley.
Councilor Murphy has anything. All right, so you want,
Hold on a second. So Councilor,
I can read it again if you want.
hold on, mic's not on. Hold
So,
on.
yeah, that would be I would make a motion to amend what.
Yeah, can you just reread that? Because
All
I
right,
get,
so
I get a
sorry.
little. No worries.
Okay. So my recommendation for the amendment would be this would be the language. The resolve would be, the city council acknowledges receipt of the request for a general meeting by citizens under Section 31 of the city charter related to Roosevelt Field, and hereby calls on the mayor to schedule such meeting by the end of the summer, and otherwise defers to the mayor related to time, place, manner, and notice procedure.
All right, does everybody
So,
have that?
yeah.
Okay, so hold on one second. Council Winslow, clerk was trying to
Okay, yeah, I
take
can-
notes, just when you get a chance, send it to
All
him.
right, sure, yeah, sure.
I see, so discussion, that's an amendment.
Yeah,
I just
so
want
yeah,
to track this
so yeah.
all. Do we have a second on the amendment? All right, so let's do the amendment first, and then we can throw it up to questions, so we keep little bit of audio. So Council Winslow has an amendment. He does have it written out. We'll get a copy of it. I already heard it. Seconded by Councilor Murphy. Let's do a roll call. He's waiting, but I want to vote on the amendment first so we can keep track. Well, it's up to the sponsor if he wants to have dialogue on the amendment.
What?
Councilor Murphy, Councilor O'Malley, please.
Okay,
Councilor O'Malley, can we take a vote?
I want to have the debate on the amendment. What are you talking about? Did you forget where we are? Ask one of your senior colleagues. Do we have debate on amendments?
We asked the petitioner if they want to have debate in the amendments. Always, Councilor. Always, Councilor.
Well, I'm open to debate.
Okay, that's fine, Councilor.
I
That's
just didn't
fine.
know if Councilor Murphy wanted to add anything before we go into debate or that, so yeah.
Councilor Murphy?
Thank you. I fully, as Councilor Winslow said, when the amendment was put on last week, and I think this is important, we're really concerned with the fact that this was the last meeting, and we wanted to recognize the fact that this petition had come in, having a little bit more time, and we needed to make the docket last Thursday, so having a little more time to have more in-depth discussion, it gave us the opportunity to sit down and speak a little bit more about it and come up with what I believe is this amendment will crystallize it and will also keep the process moving forward by allowing the mayor's office to start the process of figuring out how this will work while we're in recess. So that's why I second it, and I'm in full agreement with it, and I would hope that you would all agree with it.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Now, Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Yes. So, we definitely should have a public meeting. Clearly, the public involvement plan is not the right place to do that. There's statutory requirements of those public meetings. This is a completely different process, and to try to fit it together, I think, was inappropriate. To schedule it in the middle of summer, I think would also be similarly inappropriate, which is what the amendment is, which is why we have debate in a deliberative body. Reminder, that's where we are. I do not think this should happen in the middle of summer. I think this should be scheduled when we come back in September. Maybe the appropriateness of the gravity of the situation, because clearly the city of Malden is not listening to the people of Malden and is completely falling apart at the seams. We should have it as our first meeting in September. Ideally, we should put this on the ballot. Because the stuff that went down today from the mayor's office and the council president.
Are you done with the amendment, Councilor?
Completely inappropriate. And this is another extension of the inappropriateness that's going on in this community. No one wants the stress. I don't want the stress. Act appropriately.
Look in the mirror, Councilor. Next order of business. Excuse me. Next speaker is Councilor Karen Cologne Hayes.
Yes, thank you. I had a question. Actually, my question was the same. Are you saying you wanted to combine both meetings, the ones that were requested by the citizens of Malden and the meeting that you were going to, is that?
Hold on one
That's
second.
just the question.
I'm just going to turn Council.
So the amendment would separate them. So the amendment is only focusing on scheduling the meeting requested, and it would delete the language saying that we'd be combined in any way. So the amendment is just to have defer to the mayor in scheduling of the meeting. So that's really, it would not be tied to there's still the public involvement plan under, the mass contingency plan for the addressing the contamination. That still is in place, and that whatever meetings are required, and there is need, before any contamination is removed, there's going to need to be a public meeting. So that public meeting would still be held. So it would, we were looking at, should it just be one meeting, but now there would be two distinctive meetings. So, but yeah.
Okay, so that's great, because I definitely would not have voted to combine them. And the second question on the amendment is, did I hear correctly? So it would be during the summer, or would there be discussion on how can we have it in September? And it would be the same meeting that our residents requested. I want to just be clear that the residents who sent in the email and the 100 people who signed that petition were getting what they wanted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Council. I don't think I shut it off. There you go, Council.
I mean, the residents requested that meeting. Our charter doesn't provide any kind of time frame, so I could say there are, like I say, if we waited until the time we were ready to file the paperwork to do the contamination cleanup, that's out there further, so the thought is to try to do something sooner than that. I mean, if there's urgency for the fact this is being submitted, I think summer is vague. I mean, summer is, can include September. Like I say, it's hard for us as 11 people, and, in talking with the project team, there's a lot of, different aspects to projects. So I just felt that, in Councilor Murphy, I think that it just would complicate what's going on in terms of the project. So just deferring to them.
Thank you. So I'm okay with having it if that's where it goes. I guess the main question I want answered is will the meeting be what our residents asked for?
I'm not touching your mic, Council. I don't know why it's blinking.
But
I don't know.
I guess it will be the meeting that our city charter requires, which is basically the meeting is, you know, from the responsibility of the council and the mayor is to schedule a meeting and notify the public about it. So this would be fulfilling the obligation of the mayor and the council. How that, you know, how that exactly gets run is not clear under our city charter, so I think that's the type of thing. The obligation is to have, under our charter, is to help, you know, assemble with the assembly and the notice. That's our obligation as a city council and the mayor. And then, you know, we know it'll be, you know, a public meeting, and then that will be the public meeting, whatever the public brings to it. So like I say, I'm not trying to judge, you know, what that is, but I think it's simpler, maybe the better, like I say, to try to specify or whatever. Like I say, I'm just trying to keep it simpler. I mean, that's the type of thing. There's no requirement under the charter that any of us go or the mayor goes. That's going to be up to each individual and up to the mayor.
I got your
to
answer.
discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. Great.
Councilor Kerry McDonald.
So just two things. One, I mean, I think summer goes until like September 22nd, right? So if we're using summer, that would take us through the beginning of September, right? I mean, we're not putting a hard date on this, but we're just saying like promptly, right? Right. So if, I'd just be happy to have that reflected in the record, if folks agree that that's what summer means in this context. Okay.
Hold on, Councilor. I don't know why.
I'm fine with the friendly amendment, yeah, like I
Okay.
say, it is, I just, given a variety of things that are going on related to the project, this, sort of the mayor's staff needs a few more pieces in place to really be in a position that, you know, the city knows that, you know, the project could go forward, so before we, you know, I think that's really the type of thing of just, you know, I think that's really what we want to know, is that you know, we're, you know, syncing it up with some other things that are going on with the project or not. So otherwise we might have 3 or 4 meetings or whatever. Does that make sense? But it's clear that it doesn't, you know, there is a requirement under a public involvement plan that before any contamination is removed, we do have to have a meeting there. And then there's, you know, this is another meeting we have. So that's the type of thing. And you just, you know, there's a possibility of a 3rd meeting. So that's what we're, you know, we're trying to not over meeting people, but we want to respect what this is or whatever. So yeah.
So I understand that. I just want to be clear, like we could have the meeting in September in the way that this is written. So
You could, yeah.
in
So
the
it's
beginning of
not like
September.
I say it's.
I
just
wanted to
don't-
know if you would be open to a friendly amendment that says that, I'm sorry, I wrote it down, said otherwise defer to the mayor calls on the mayor to schedule such a meeting and defers to the mayor in time, place, manner, and notice procedure. I mean, as I'm reading the city charter, it's just not clear like who gets to decide when the meeting is, and so I think we're kind of stepping into that to say, well, this says we think it's the mayor's job to decide when and where the meeting will take place, and I wonder if you would consider a friendly amendment that says, in consultation with those who submitted the petition, transparently, I would like to avoid a situation by which we are fighting about the scheduling of the meeting that we all don't actually have to go to. And I just think that could be helpful in terms of, you know, having to
I
be
mean,
in
like I say,
communication with
I
that.
think, you know, in consultation, I don't think
consultation
that
with those
necessarily
who
means a
submitted the
veto.
petition.
Like I say, we have the city charter, our obligation is to schedule a meeting and give notice.
Well, it says warn, so.
Yeah, so that's, you know, that's you know, probably 200 years. So like I say, I think that is, like, to me, keeping it simple. I mean, certainly, I'm open to, you know, saying consultation. I mean, I think that, you know, I expect the mayor would do something in good faith to make sure it's a date that makes sense for people and that the people who led this development of the petition know of that date. So, like I say, it's, you know, but, you know, it's not going to be forever, so either. So I think that's the type of thing that, I mean, I think, you know, if we expect reasonableness of the mayor, I think we got to expect reasonableness of the petitioners as well. So that's
Yeah, so I mean, I just feel like it's helpful to spell that out in
Yeah,
in consultation, and so I just want to know if you would be open
No,
to
I mean, I
having
think those seem to be 2 friendly amendments of, what do we kind of figure, September 22nd, and consult on with the group, yeah, those seem to be friendly amendments to me.
Can you repeat the amendment, Counsel?
Yeah, so one amendment would be to just add before the period, to just say, comma, in consultation with the citizens who submitted the petition. And the other would be, can we just, do you want to just say by the end of summer or the end of September? Or I just didn't look up the date of the end of summer.
The end of September or whatever.
Okay, and then say, rather than end of the summer, end of September 2022.
Okay, so we got two amendments. Discussion on this amendment? You want loud discussion? We're not gonna vote it, we're gonna wait till the end anyway.
On
Yeah.
discussion on my amendments?
It's up to you.
No,
Yeah, it's okay. Are you all set?
Okay, we're all.
I'm all set.
Okay, so we got two amendments. Counsel O'Malley.
Yeah, I was just reading I'm just trying to read the language and whether or not there's a date or a number of days by which you need to have this meeting. Does anyone have it in front of them?
I have the charter right here, so.
Yeah, hold on.
There doesn't, the charter doesn't give any specific date, so, I mean,
Okay.
I think that's the dilemma that, we want to have it not to be forgotten. It is happened to be summer that, that this petition was filed, so I think we don't want to wait too long, out of fairness both to the petitioners and to the city as well. So, I mean, I think but I think, consulting and trying to work that out, I think that's fair, so.
Yeah, and I mean, the only reason I mention it is because, I've heard over the years many counselors, who go away in the summer, express concern about having important meetings in the summer. I'm willing to support Counselor McDonald's amendment. I think it would be clearer for everyone, and I think it would allow for less shenanigans if we just said September. But I'll support, and we'll leave the decision up to the mayor and whether or not he can be reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Winslow, is you late? Okay, I just left.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have two amendments. Any further discussion? Clerk, let's go for the first amendment, which I believe is I gotta get a second, Counselor. Did you second, Counselor? Okay. So Counselor let's do Counselor Winslow's motion, which was read. Do I need to repeat it? Good. Seconded by Counselor Murphy. All in favor? You want to, let's do a roll call. We're gonna do one amendment first, right? Oh, yours is gonna come first, because you're gonna define the summer, correct? Okay, so we're gonna go back. On council. Restate yours? Yeah, you can restate yours.
Okay, so the friendly amendments I suggested were, rather than say by the end of the summer, to say by the end of September 2022. And then after the words notice procedure, to add comma, in consultation with the citizens who submitted the request.
Okay. Seconded by Counsel O'Malley. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, carries 11-0. Second Amendment, Counselor?
That was the.
You gotta put them all together, okay.
Yeah.
On Counselor Winslow's original motion, which has been amended by Counselor McDonald, seconded by Counselor Murphy. Clerk will call, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, 11-0. Next order of business.
Paper 313-22, resolved that as a sense of the City Council that in order to maintain and preserve our parks, the council president should establish a Parks Restoration and Maintenance Committee.
Counselor, you all set? Oh, we never passed the whole entire paper. Good catch, thank you. We never did the original paper. All right, so in Counselor Winslow's motion to pass as amended, seconded by Counselor Murphy, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Good catch. Thank you, councilors. Next order of business. Oh, sorry.
313-22, resolved that as a sense of the City Council that in order to maintain and preserve our parks, the council president should establish a Parks Restoration and Maintenance Committee.
Counsel Simonelli for the paper.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, this started a little bit while back when I was campaigning. And as I was going through my parks, I had noticed that, there was a lot of need of repair. Not a major need of repair yet anyway, but major need of repair. And I have a lot of park space in my ward, and I have a lot of equipment in my ward. And we don't seem to have that mechanism in place with some teeth right now. I think we kind of been going about it postage stamp type way. And I think that we need a comprehensive plan, Mr. President, to be able to have a committee do a fact-finding type of campaign throughout the summer to see exactly what mechanisms need to be put in place, along with some recommendations that come out of this committee. This would not be a long-standing committee. We do have a Parks and Recreation committee here on the council that I think that a lot of those recommendations would be probably being made to the Parks and Recreation Committee on what we find at the end. Also, there will be a multifaceted approach to other committees, like some things would have to go to ordinance, some things would have to go to several other different committees, finance, because I'm sure there's going to be needing some funding to go along with that. So, I mean, the thing is, we've been continuously building parks, which is good, and renovating our parks. And I'll give you Lincoln Commons, for example, because it's in my neighborhood. Beautiful park. But, it's coming up to be like 20 years old. And as I've been walking through the parks, which I do pretty much every morning and every afternoon, a lot of the mortar is coming out of the point area up on top of the Lincoln Commons. And some of the freezes, and for those of you who don't know what freezes are, they are like the sandstone structures that are inside or on the building. And we took these freezes when we did the park from the old Lincoln School, which are from like 1889. And they're made out of sandstone. And, they were expensive to actually move them and cut them out from the school so we could place them in the monuments that we have going through Lincoln Commons. And they're starting to crack. If you've been down there, they're starting to crack and they're starting to deteriorate. So, I think we need to put a better maintenance and restoration plan moving forward. Because, we're continuously putting millions of dollars into parks. I think every counselor up here either has done some renovations or would like to do some renovations and talk about it quite frequently. But what good are doing, these park projects if we don't have a maintenance and restoration plan in place? And, we talked about this in the past a little bit back and forth. And again, piecemeal is what I'm talking about. Because what we're doing is, we're talking about the DPW and, Bobby Knox, and he does a great job with his ability and the manpower and the equipment that he has. But he'll tell you himself, it's not enough to continuously going forward. Same thing with Chris Rosa, talking with him and being the arborist and having a lot of subject knowledge in that field in his past business in landscape and design. So I think that we need to give those folks the proper tools in order to continue to move forward into restoring our parks. And I give you an example, like I said, Lincoln Commons. If we grabbed it right now, you're talking thousands of dollars, right? But if we continue to wait like we have been and do nothing, then it turns into a pile of rubble, and then we got to do the whole thing over, and then we're talking multi-millions of dollars because we've done this before. And I think it's just something that's slipped through the cracks. City's busy, it's moving forward, a lot of good things happening in the city of Malden. And I think this thing is just kind of, fell through the cracks. And I've talked to Director Knox, I've talked to the rank and file, which I do quite frequently, probably a couple times a week down at Honeydew Donuts. And they're in sync with one another to say the same thing, that, we just don't have enough manpower and we don't have enough equipment to take care of the parks and continuously take care of the parks. So I think it's very important for us to be proactive instead of reactive. I know I reached out to Councilor Winslow because I wanted to get his opinion on it, because I know he does a lot of work, and he's actually rolled up his sleeves and did a lot of stuff with the CPC. And some things will have to go to the CPC. Some of the recommendations that come out of this committee will have to go to the CPC, Conservation Commission. So not just it will have to go to one committee. I mean, I'm hoping that our fact-finding and our recommendations would come back and go into Chairman O'Malley's committee, which would be Parks and Recreation, and then hopefully they can disperse in different threads onto where some of these line items need to go for restoration and repair. It's something that's needed. I'm very passionate about it, and I'd like my colleagues to support me on this so we can move forward and so we can be proactive instead of reactive. Thank you.
A lot of lights. We're going to go in order. Council Karen Cologne Hayes. Councilor Hayes.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Councilor Simonelli. We're on the same wavelength. We talked about this a number of times. I've been a big advocate for our parks here and open space for many, many years, a big avid hiker, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've also spoken with the director of the DPW, with Chris Rosa, and Joe Levine. I invited them all to our meeting earlier. So we did have a meeting earlier to discuss actually every single thing that you said, so that's excellent. We're on the same page. We had at least 14 people were in the room, and there were another 13 or 15 trying to get on Zoom, so this is definitely something that the city cares about. We had experts in the field. The CPC committee was represented. We had all different people from all different wards in that meeting, so it was fantastic. And so seeing that we're on the same wavelength and we're going to follow the plan for open space plan that we have already started in 2017, we're going to like go down that and make sure that we're doing things correctly and what the people want in a meticulous fashion. I think that it would get confusing, and we definitely shouldn't be having two groups doing the same thing, or two committees. So I would like to suggest that we combine it, or if you, refer it to our committee and we can work together on that, because it sounds like we're trying to do the same exact thing. And it was we already met with a large group of our community, so I think you would find them extremely helpful and really like to work with them. So I think that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mandalinian.
Thank you, Mr. President. So when I initially saw this on the docket, I felt like a little deja vu, like we had the same discussion, I think, around the exact same time last year. Clearly there's agreement, or at least consensus, that we want to be more deliberate about our park maintenance and put some resources to that. And I actually took the time to speak to Councilor Simonelli and talk a little bit about what his goals were for the committee. And I think, having had that discussion, I've come to realize that instead of being redundant or duplicative, the intent is really to do a more streamlined and targeted amount of research and discussion, such that could be referred to other committees where we could take action, including the Parks and Recreation Committee, which I sit on. I also went back through our open space plan, which is getting a little bit old. We're probably going to need to do a new one pretty soon, and certainly a lot of things have changed in how people use the parks with COVID, and we have a lot of resources that we need to make a lot of long-term plans for, and I hope we do get around to doing that in the next few years. But one of the things that stuck out to me in the open space plan is that one of the top goals identified was to actually develop a comprehensive maintenance and management policy. I know Councilor Murphy was on that committee, and I think Councilor Winslow sat on that, not as a councilor, but as a resident, or maybe a representative of Bike to the Sea, I think, at the time. But in any case, there was consensus even at that time that this was something that we needed to devote resources to, and the residents surveyed in that plan really backed that up and said that the maintenance is just not where we all want it to be and what the city deserves. And it called out, to Councilor Simonelli's point, that neighborhood parity piece too, which is really important to me as well. So for that reason, I'll be supporting the paper, but I do hope that we can all come together and find a way to really get to some action on this. I think that the Parks and Recreation Committee has a broader mandate, and that this could be something that we could partner on. But I'd really like to see us do a little bit more than discussion and actually get to the point of getting a maintenance plan and getting some real money behind it. So that's where I'm at, and I'm going to be supporting this.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Linehan. Councilor O'Malley.
The Parks and Recreation Committee met tonight. I want to thank the Vice Chair, Karen Cologne-Hayes, and Member Amanda Linehan. As was stated, a number of residents came, both in person and online. We did have some technical difficulties. It looks as though the mayor's office and the council president disabled the online broadcast.
Well, let me clear the record. The mayor had nothing to do with it. You have a memo. If you want me to distribute the memo, Counselor, I'll be happy to do so, because what you did today was a
Thank
clear
you.
violation. No,
Appreciate it.
thank you, Counselor.
And so
get to the point.
Understood. So I think that I appreciate, Councilor Simonelli, what you're looking to do here. I think that probably what's happening is we're being used as pawns to some degree by the powers that be. It's not uncommon. I think we all kind of know what that's like, and feint within a feint within a feint. But, I think that taking care of our parks and really getting this under control, where it's been off the rails for so long, I do want to give a shout out to the DPW that does an amazing job, and Bob Knox with the resources that they're given. I hope that they are continuing to give support and we can continue to grow that department. I'm happy to hear that they joined the Teamsters Union. I think that rank and file members of our community who need protection from the abuses of power in our community is crucial. I'm fully in support of this, and I look forward to working with you. Maybe we can have some joint committees together. More hands make a light load. But I do think that our community really needs to get ahead of this, because the parks are falling apart. And we're talking about turfing things because we can't maintain the grass. Clearly, the air quality in our community is not great. We have members of the public coughing. We need more trees, I'm sure, clear the air. Things like that. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, no, I as I thought about this paper, and I did get a chance to talk to Councilor Simonelli about it, one of the things I thought about was we had a transportation committee that we worked, the council and the mayor helped put together. And we what I say is we did a white paper where we looked at what other communities were doing in terms of transportation planning, the structure of their traffic commissions and staffing and other policies. And that was, something that we were able to use as a council to help convince the mayor that we should have a transportation planner. And we still need to look at our traffic commission as one of the things, but that was a very useful process. And that's what I kind of imagined perhaps this being, on the, serving on the last two versions of the Open Space and Rec Committee, sitting down with Bob Knox as we were developing the 2017 plan. One of the things I was asking about was, does our DPW kind of have a list of routine maintenance or maintenance backlogs? And unfortunately, we didn't really have that. And having come from Gloucester, where as much as DPWs don't like to write reports and they want to do stuff, not write and talk and meet, they want to get stuff done. They did have that 5 to 6 page things that went in the Gloucester Open Space Plan of like deferred maintenance and other type of things. So I think that sometimes the Open Space and Recreation Plan, I see that as sort of most of the capital planning, where parks do get dated in terms of the equipment gets broken and old, and sometimes we have to make decisions about something that was great 20 years ago. The community has changed. We have to make those changes. The Open Space and Recreation Plan is kind of for that bigger visioning and getting that. But having some, not being totally dependent on see-click-fix, and having some sort of like understanding of what maintenance we need to do on a regular basis, and knowing what sort of resources we're putting in compared to what other communities. I mean, I always point out, like, just the way Pine Banks works. We put in more money in Pine Banks Park than we do for all the other parks in the city. So that's just amazing foresight by the Converse family when they donated that land, that we have to put that money in. But so I think I'm supportive, and I want to make sure we're working towards really, finding out where we should be going. But I do see this more as kind of more than focusing on where we are in terms of like maintenance, what maintenance is deferred? Do we have that type of thing, that we're getting resources to maintain everything? And, you know, we do probably in the next year or two, we're gonna have to go in the open space and recreation planning process. So that's kind of, like I say, the bigger visioning thing of like what parks we should prioritize and what changes we should make. But this is more like making sure we have the resources to keep up what we got. And I think that's the type of thing we are sort of deficient now, so I think we could, now that Bob's staffed up, maybe a little more. So I'm supportive of, you know, working in that vein and happy to help out in any way on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Karen Colon-Hayes.
So I just had a question, Councilor Simonelli. So it sounds like, and believe me, there's enough work to go around to have 5 committees on this. I just want to make sure that we're not duplicating work. So it would be, and we had such a great amount of people show up today, so that if we could work together, and I can actually give you some names and stuff. I'm not sure exactly what it is that you're proposing here, and if it's different, but I would happily support it. But I have just quite, because it does really sound like the same thing we're doing. So I just need to understand what's different about it.
Mike's on, Council.
Well, here's my frustration, Counselor. And I'm glad you brought it up. We've been in session for 6 months. In 6 months, the Parks and Recreation Committee has not met until after I put this paper in for maintenance and restoration. And then you went ahead and advertised for the meeting on the final hour, which was this past Thursday after I put it on the docket. So I feel as though if it was that meaningful to you and it was, you know, that important and you were that aggressive of it, you would have had at least several meetings since we come into session. I mean, I'm on several committees, chairman of a couple, and yet, you know, believe me, I don't want another committee. Trust me. My colleagues know that. However, you know, there's a lot of work that has been done to these parks, and Lincoln Commons is my baby down at Ward 7. And, you know, I'm seeing things start to deteriorate. I mean, we're over there looking at the period lighting with the poles and the globes, and we need to upgrade those. It's a $53,000 price tag. So these things we're going to, just like the schools, you know, we kind of were reactive there as well, not very proactive. With 20-year-old schools, they were great when they were first built. I was council president when they came online. But there was nothing really of great substance that was put into for a maintenance program. And thank God for ARPA, because if you didn't have that money, they wouldn't have done the HVAC or would have had a more difficult time finding the funding to do the HVAC. So I don't want to overspeak. But I'm just, if I may,
Hold on,
just
Council, your mic
finish.
was off. Hold on.
Okay, thanks.
If I just may, I'm just saying, look, I have no problem working with your committee as we move forward. I have all intentions of working with your committee as we move forward. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that we're gonna have to look at, and we're gonna have to put those things, our recommendations, when we get our findings, facts and findings, that are gonna have to go on a whole different bunch of threads. Some may have to go to CPC.
Absolutely.
Some may have to go to Conservation Committee. Some may have to go to ordinance. We might have to change some things. You know, we talk about, you know, we're talking about things from like permits. What's worth it for us to have a permit on a park? I'm having trouble right now where people aren't even getting permits, and they're trampling all over my park, and they're not even from the city of Malden.
Yes.
And even the $50 fee in itself, I don't know, is it worth getting your parks beat up and everything else for $50? So there's so many things that we've got to look at. And like I said, this is not a duplication of a committee that's already standing. This is a steering committee that will get some findings of facts of where we are and recommendations to those findings of facts, and then send them out to need be. And then this committee that I'm asking for dissolves. And the work will probably be being done in most of it in Parks and Recreation. And like I said, except for some of them other ones that some of the other threads will go to.
Okay, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So just we are definitely talking about the same exact thing. So that's great. And I have no problem working with another committee. Like I said, there's enough work to go around here, no doubt about it. We're all on there. It's shown by the amount of people who showed up and for years that I've been working on it also. So with, I do want to correct something just so people know this, and I think I told you this offline. I do call you all the time. We were trying to set up this meeting for a long time. I don't want to bring Ms. Gagno in here, but Lisa knows. We were trying to set that up, and it was double booked. There was never a time meeting, so this has been going on for a while. And then finally, the other day, when I was in the office, I'm like, Lisa, please, can you get like this? And she said, yes, let me call over. It's not anything to do with Lisa, but she can tell you, we've been trying to, there was nothing underhanded or weirdness. I don't know what you're talking about, but when we saw that on there, I was like, how did that come? I don't want to get into that because it's not necessary. We're all agreeing on what we need to do, but I want to make the record clear that this has been going on for a long time, and we tried to get this meeting up here. So in any case, I'll support it. I think we need a lot of work to be done here, but I definitely want to clear the record for everyone here that that is not how it went down.
Okay. Thank you, Counsel.
Okay.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am in full support of this paper this evening, too. I think that, we need to look at each park separately and identify those items, such as the freezes at Lincoln Common. Who here knew those were there, except for probably you? Okay, and they're deteriorating. I know I'm going to speak for Councilor Crowe at the moment, because we talk a lot, and I know that Bell Rock Park, the walls in Bell Rock Park are in need of repair. Those are some big projects, some really big ticket items. And as you said, Councilor Simonelli, those all play into finance, and as we start to prepare the 2024 budget, if we can identify these big projects, maybe we can find a way. Is it CPC? Is it APRA? Is it, does it fall into the long-term financial planning committee that Councilor Condon chairs? What can go into CBDG? What can we get? Councilor Winslow is our master at finding grants, for certain things. If we can identify the bulk of like what needs to be done, I think it will be a great start for us trying to identify the potential of funding those particular projects. And one thing, and I just have to say this, Councilor Winslow, and I'm not picking on you, but it's just a pet peeve with me about Pine Banks Park. The reason Pine Banks Park's budget seems so large in comparison to the city's park budget is the fact that in the Pine Banks Park budget is all of the maintenance, it's all the people too. And it's their health care and their retirement and everything else, whereas when you look at our parks funding, the people are in a separate spot. So, so I just don't want anyone to go back and look at Pine Banks Park and go, oh my God, they're paying so much money for Pine Banks Park. We do pay a healthy sum, but if you take out, retirement, health care, salaries, it brings it down to a much more reasonable level that's more in line with, what the city's parks budget is, so.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thanks, Council.
So anyway, but,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
But I am in full support of this. I think it'll be great to just be laser focused on a few issues that the committee can focus on, so.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm full support. If I had to choose one guy to send him on this kind of mission, it would be the council from Ward 7, because I know when he focuses on something, he'll go out and get it done. I'd like everybody to think in a way, you identify just 2 or 3 things, like in Councilor Crow's ward, where the wall has to be pointed. You might save a serious injury in these parks. And it's up to all of us to kind of look out and see what needs to be done, particularly any kind of safety issues. And the DPW will gladly come out and do it and not make anybody wait, particularly in that way. But turn the bloodhound loose. It'll be a good thing.
Okay, seeing no other lights, I will speak in the paper. So when Councilor, well, let me just give everybody back a little history lesson. So I heard that, first of all, everybody congratulated DPW. We just went to the budget meeting. A lot of councils here asked, do you have enough support? Councilor Knox did, Councilor Knox. Commissioner Knox, DPW Director Knox did say he was fully funded. In fact, we were only given a little bit more money. We are getting some equipment through some ARPA and private, but I will remind, I think every council up here realizes in the last 15 or 20 years, this city has invested millions of dollars in parks. Just off the top of my head, Trafton, Quartermalee, Wallace Park, which is CPC funding, Dever Park's gonna go the process, Green Street was done over, Bruce Field was done over. For Ward 5, you had the Challenger updates, ADA compliance for the Challenger games. That's for children with special needs. We did Broadway, which is Howard Park. We did Waits Mountain. All that was done in the last 15 years. Now, 15 years is a long time because we got a lot of use out of the parks. They're 24/7, they certainly do maintenance. And when Councilor Simonelli first asked me, I had the same kind of response. Do we need another council committee? Is it duplicative? Is it over the top? But when he explained to me what the need was, it really wasn't just one aspect. What really, I took a thought process from Councilor Winslow's when he did the Maplewood Committee. That was put there for a specific task. It might stay forever, but it might not be there. So Councilor Simonelli assured me this is something that would go in there, drum up recommendations, and a lot of the council members here have been referring to expense to maintain. But our original conversation was the freezes, which are historical pieces that were preserved off the old Lincoln Junior High that need some restoration. To me, that is not a park and recreation decision. It's probably, maybe we could go to the Historical Commission for some money, or the CPC. Then he talked to me about a group outside of, I don't want to say this, the community, but there's a group from several cities away that were using the park, not in a bad way or vindictive, but we're using the park without a permit. It was causing some harm. So that's an ordinance, right? So we would have to send something like that to ordinance. We also had a neighboring city using it for their school children. Again, we want to have open space for everybody, but there's a limited enough space for even our own children. So a lot of the ideas he was throwing out to me, realized this could be multiple committees here, so I support it. And that's why, after talking to Councilor Simonelli, I elected to support it. And I think what my hope is, and I've shared this with him several times in the call, is to put a quick committee together, research not just cost, but maybe historical preservation, maybe CPC request, maybe some ordinance changes, right? Come back to the full committee or work with Parks and Recreation, then maybe refer to ordinance, maybe finance, maybe public property, maybe DPW. I mean, it's an endless list. So, but it should not be a perpetual committee that stands year after year, because this is designated with a single task and a single vision. And that's why I support this. You want to do a roll call? Let's do all in favor. So on Councilor Simonelli's, Clerk, can you read it? There's no amendments, so. Can you read it for everybody? Oh, I gotta turn your mic on.
Resolved that it is the sense of the City Council that in order to maintain and preserve our parks, the council president should establish a Parks Restoration and Maintenance Committee.
All in favor? All opposed? Passes. Did I get a second on that? Oh, I'm sorry, I need a second. Councilor Murphy. So on Councilor Simonelli's motion, seconded by Councilor Murphy, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Next order of business. You are.
Paper 314-22, Committee Report, the Standing Committee on Rules and Ordinance, to whom was referred paper 211-22, having considered the same, make the following report, that these amendments be reported out favorable to the full council through papers numbered 315-22, 316-22, 317-22, 318-22, 319-22, and 320-22.
On Councilor Crow's motion, receive the committee report. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Councilor Crow for the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. And there are a number of papers here. We're going to kind of take them up separately. And the purpose is really to send these to a joint planning and ordinance committee meeting that will happen in August. We're thinking around the 10th or the 17th of August, but, so it'll be noticed properly. So I don't know if you have to read each one of the paper numbers. I mean, you already did, so I can just kind of explain what some of the proposals are. So paper number 31522 is really, it pertains to buffer zones and relief required. So in this paper, as our building commission has pointed out to us, that we treat in our zoning new construction different than pre-existing construction. So this, again, delineates new construction that has to go for variance for all requirements, parking, dimensional controls, parking requirements, and buffer zones. For buildings that are already in existence, that the level is, the proposal is not necessarily to go to get a variance, but it is to the special permitting authority. So again, if it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood, so that's pretty, looking at that. I'm not sure if we want to, I see a light already, so if we want to take these up, we'll vote on these individually. You know, they have, so just to make sure that they're all, they get sent to, for hearing. So the purpose is making a motion to send this to hearing for a
Okay, we have a
joint,
couple lights on.
and we have lights, so.
Okay, so
we'll hear that
Council
first.
Seeker was first. Council Seeker.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to go on the record for these 6 committee reports that we should be referring to a joint planning and joint ordinance. Earlier this evening, several of my colleagues sat up here and said that we probably shouldn't hold important meetings during the summer months, and this is exactly what we're going to be doing by referring these 6 papers to a joint planning and joint ordinance committee on either August 10th or August 17th. So it seems to me that you don't want people to come to these meetings because you're okay with holding this particular type of meeting in the middle of the summer months. But the Roosevelt Park meeting, you want to wait because people may be on vacation. So it sounds to me like you don't want people to come to these meetings, this meeting, because you want these to pass out favorably and change. I think zoning of cannabis establishments is just as important as the turf at the Roosevelt Park. So I just wanted to, put that out there that we're talking about not holding important meetings during summer months, but this is just as important as a Roosevelt Park meeting. And I personally don't think that it should be, that these changes, the recommendations should be held during the summer months. So I just wanted to go on record stating that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Seeker. Councilor Amanda Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will just quickly respond to that because I do think procedurally, our planning board does not recess over the summer like we do. So I think whether it's a city or a town, it's pretty standard for zoning to get referred to your zoning or your planning board to be workshopped over the summer, and whether it's town meeting or the fall session of your city council to bring those things back for ultimate approval. I think that's, we're lucky we don't have town meeting here, so we don't have to wait for a fall town meeting to get zoning through. We can do that when the council's in session, and the way that this worked out, we've workshopped it all winter, spring, and to here our last meeting. And it's, to be transparent, it's only here tonight because I was out of town last week, and in deference to these being my papers, we've waited till tonight, which I appreciate the council president doing. But in any case, it's not been my experience that we get poor turnout at summer meetings regardless of the issue. I have community meetings in the summer, and I'm around. I think we do get pretty good turnout. I certainly hope we get good turnout to these, and that when we bring them back before the full council for a final vote in the fall, that we get good turnout. But what I actually had originally put my light on was just to highlight that I think one of these is actually Councilor Seeka's paper, and it's under my name. No?
No,
Okay,
we'll get to those.
okay.
Council's point of information.
Yeah, you can go
Yeah,
ahead.
please do, because I want to make sure we get this right.
I got your, we spoke a little bit, texted. So these are not, this is actually, so it does not go to the Board of Appeals, this first one is really Councilor McDonald's, that's to make that clear. What goes
Sure.
to the Board of Appeals and what goes to the special granting authority.
Okay, and that's fine. I was more being deferential because I didn't bring all of these up myself, and they all have my name.
Well, because
fine to take 'em-
the original paper was under your name.
Understood.
So all the amendments sort of that resulted in
Yeah.
different zoning amendments sort of still came under your name.
No problem. And then I did just want to ask the question about the last one that had expressed a concern wasn't properly before us because we didn't discuss in committee. But are we okay to have that sixth one on here, given that it didn't go through committee but is under committee reports?
So I can jump in procedurally, and if the clerk can jump in as also as the chair of ordinance. So my understanding is amendment number 6, which is paper 320-22, is only going to be included if amendment 1, which is paper 315-22, is not referred. So if paper 315-22 is not referred to the public hearing, then we would go to amendment, the paper 320-22. Is that correct?
Yes,
Ordinance Chair
and
Clerk?
actually Michelle Romero, our city planner, is here and can kind of explain that a little. There is just a little nuance to that, and it really is, but, you know, just sort of the difference between the 6th. We can wait till the 6th unless before we go further, we can.
No
do that,
objections
if
to
you
the
don't mind.
city planner, Michelle Romero, speaking before the council?
That's fine.
All right, hearing none, seeing none, Council Miro? Excuse me.
Thank
Planner,
you.
Michelle
Thank you,
Romero.
Michelle Romero, City Planner, thank you. I would just note that that particular proposal, and this was divided up into the different papers, so each provision has its own paper number, and that was done at the request of Councilor Crowe. That paper that you're asking about, which is 320-22, which is the council president said, you would only need to act on and refer to committee, refer for public hearing if you don't refer paper 315-322 for hearing. You did actually discuss what's contained in 320. 315 contains more than what's in 320, but it also contains what's in 320. So basically, 315 includes the substantive changes regarding buffer zones and the administrative clarification. 320 only includes the administrative clarification. So in the event you don't want to refer 315, which addresses buffer zones and administrative clarification, if you don't refer that, you should refer 320, which only addresses the administrative clarification. So 320 is contained in 315, essentially. So you have discussed just in a little different format. Thank you. I hope that clarifies.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Councilman Linehan? No, I'm sorry. Council.
No, I think that's fine. I appreciate the work that the city planner put into it. I guess my concern is a little bit like thinking down the line. If you look at my name in Registrar, it's going to have two conflicting things that completely cancel each other out, and that I didn't actually file one of them. So if we can just sort that out behind the scenes, then I'm good to proceed with that as
The clerk will
a...
change it to reflect that in the
Understood.
Granicus. You'll reflect it in Granicus.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
Understood. Any other questions for the planner? I'm going to skip around because it's Council O'Malley's next, but Council McDonald, just because the planner's here.
So I'm trying to look at the difference between number 6 and number 1. And I'm sorry, number 1 is the one that we discussed in committee? Or number 6?
So Council McDonald, just so I know, so that's paper 315-22 and then paper 320-22 you're referring to, correct?
That's
Yes, you
correct.
discussed both of them in committee.
Okay.
Yes,
We discussed both of them in committee.
yes. One contains the language about the buffer zone and the administrative clarification that Councilor Crowe was just discussing that codifies the current protocol, which is that for existing buildings, no variances, for existing buildings, a variance is required for new violations of dimensional controls parking. And for pre-existing buildings, the special permit granting authority may find that new nonconformities are not detrimental, so no variance is required.
Right.
So 320 you did discuss, and you also discussed 315. They don't actually conflict. They are saying one has more information than the other, but they both have this. They both have the same administrative correction in it.
Okay.
Clarification, not correction.
Because the one that I'm looking at in 320, which is number 6,
Yes,
has this final line that says a variance shall be required to grant relief from any noncompliance with buffer zones of this ordinance.
right. And that's the current protocol. That's codifying what we currently do. Currently, you do need that. This is that administrative clarification.
Okay, well, let's hope we get through one, because my takeaway from the extensive meetings that we had with yourself, our city solicitor, and our building inspector, is that we don't actually do this right now. There was actually disagreement behind the scenes about how this would be addressed and what's the appropriate, we had this whole conversation about what's a variance, what's a finding, what's relief. And so I haven't seen this. I hadn't seen this previously.
Yeah, we do this. This is codifying, that last sentence codifies what we do now. You need, if it's a new building, a new construction, you need a variance if you don't meet parking, if you don't meet dimensional controls, if you don't meet buffer zones. That's what we do now. It just codifies it, it puts it into writing.
Right,
That is what we've been doing.
But this says for existing buildings, not for new buildings.
That's construction of new buildings, subsection A.
Yeah, but
Is new buildings, and subsection B
I know, but
is
the sentence
existing.
is added at the end of subsection B.
Right. The sentence added at the end of section A addresses the fact that you do need a variance, and you currently need a variance. It's just codifying that fact. That is how we administer the ordinance. In B, that sentence at the end is also what we're already doing. It's just codifying what we're already doing. The special permit granting authority makes the finding already. That's what you're doing. That's what you already do. That's what all the special permit granting authorities do.
So I remember distinctly being here at 9:30 p.m. and being told, no way, no how can a special permit granting authority grant a variance. That is the state-required domain of the Board of Appeals. And there's
Right.
no way a special permit granting authority can provide a variance.
That's correct. That's correct. This is not saying that you would grant a variance. This is saying for new construction, variance is required. So a variance by the terms of our ordinance and by state law is by the Board of Appeal. And B is saying you can make these findings for pre-existing non-conforming buildings. That was the confusion, is there were people saying, oh, you are
Right,
granting a
right,
variance. You're
okay.
not granting a variance.
Why don't we go ahead and take the
Okay.
vote?
Council O'Malley, point of information?
I think that the dynamic that's going on here is that we have nothing in front of us that explains what we're talking about.
Okay.
We have an agenda that lists, not random, but the things that do not help us understand anything we're talking about right now.
If you
No,
click on it, you.
So
you
it would
could
be
put them-
super helpful, and I think Councilor Di Maria made a big point about this, that if we're gonna talk about amendments to zoning, or any amendments, can we please have that in our packet? We used to get packets. Councilor Simonelli talked about where are the packets. We have no idea what we're talking about right now.
I printed it all off the agenda, all the legislation with text and also the.
We don't have any of
proposed-
that.
Oh, okay, I printed, I'm
So
sorry.
I just think it would be
Yeah.
really helpful for us to have that in front of us in the future, because we're talking about things, papers are misassigned to councilors. This is not great for us to be efficient.
If you click on the link on the agendas,
So-
it brings all the papers, it brings them up.
Can I continue? So what I want to say is that we spent, I feel like, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this committee to get some exact things to the floor of this council, and I do not personally appreciate seeing language here that feels like it is not what we voted on to send to this council. And I understand that there's sort of a backup thing, it's the backup option, but we didn't vote on two versions of this. I thought we voted on one version of this, and so I am confused about the difference to these things. But I hear you saying that if we refer the 315, then we don't need to deal with 320. So I hope we can just refer 315, because otherwise I'm just really confused.
My hope is to refer.
Okay,
315
great.
as
So
well.
then I will withdraw my question.
Okay.
At this point.
Councilor Winslow, you're next. Some lights went off, so Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, so, Planner Romero, just in terms of the timing, so because of state law, if we vote to refer, we have a certain time frame where, well, the planning board and the Rules and Ordinance Committee have to have a hearing within a certain amount of time after this referral, right?
Yes, that's in accordance with state law and our local ordinance. You have 65 days to hold the hearing, or to open the hearing from the date of referral.
And then after the hearing closes, then we have a certain amount of time. And that
Yes.
we could, when and if these get referred out of planning and rules and ordinance, when they come back, that can be in September. And we will, as a full
Yes,
council, then
that will be
consider those.
September.
So there'll be the planning board and rules and ordinance meetings that have in the summer, but there'll be another opportunity for the public to comment in September or whatever, so, or when they come back.
Well, it won't be, the planning board has to make its recommendation within so many days. I believe it's 21.
Right.
And then you will have 90 days to take final action from the date the hearing closes. But there is no other public hearing, no. The public hearing for the zoning amendments is by the planning board and ordinance committee. So there's no other opportunity for public hearing. That doesn't mean you can't take public comment, but there's no public hearing.
Right, so, but
Where you're
when it
required
comes
to
to
take
council,
comment.
if that's on the docket, people can come and speak at our public comment period, so. Excuse me, all right, I just wanted that clarification, thank you.
Okay, Council Murphy.
Thank you. I just wanted to go on record that I totally agree with what Councilor Seeger said when she first stated her comments about, we just had a discussion about not holding a meeting about a park in the summer because people might be away and on vacation. And the fact that, I understand the planning board meets through the summer and that there will be another bite at the apple, but what you just said, Ms. Romero, is the planning board will have already made their recommendation, possibly without input from the public. So, I mean, I know that the opportunity for the public to input, but if people are on vacation and summer is a difficult time where we don't want to have a meeting about a park, I think it's very disingenuous to say that we're going to do this for cannabis, which is something that people have very strong feelings about both ways. And I think that we should be doing it at a time frame when most people, are reasonably expected to be, at home and at work and not in the months of July and August. So I think it's, as I said, a little disingenuous on our part to be referring this in the summer.
So yes, the public hearing must be held, but we can't require anybody to attend the public hearing, but we're required to hold the public hearing.
Correct.
Yes.
But if you were here for the earlier part of the discussion today.
I heard part of that, yes.
Yes, so I'm just saying it's quite disingenuous to, have one set of circumstances for one project and another set of circumstances for another, So I really don't think it's appropriate for us to do that. Good for one is good for everyone.
Well said. Thank you,
Yes.
Council Murphy. Council O'Malley.
Well, I appreciate that Councilor Murphy spoke up then. The reason why I stated that is specifically, I was quoting you in the past, because there are a number of you who do go away for the summer. You go to Maine. You have a house in Maine. Councilor Sika goes to Maine. So this has been stated before. This is where it was coming from. We are the only body in the city that takes a summer recess. That is where it was coming from. We were talking about scheduling a public meeting and a hearing before this public body and the mayor. That is where that was coming from. As you know, the planning board works diligently throughout the summer. So there's not two different things going on here. It's the fact that, as you've stated previously, definitely on camera, you go away in the summer and you think that these things should happen when we're here. I understand that. I would be perfectly fine with having a initial public hearing in the summer. They can, I believe, table the public hearing and reopen it in September if they want. But we are statutorily required to send things to a public hearing within 14 days. And that's set by law. But the planning board could absolutely open that public hearing and get comments, recess that public hearing, and come back in September if they'd like. And it would be a clear public interest there if you're saying that the public might not be able to attend. That's perfectly fine.
I was saying.
There's plenty of options here, but saying disingenuous and all these other things, please.
Please, well, it's actually a lot lighter than what you normally say.
Council Murphy? Go ahead, the light's on now.
Thank you.
I want Council Mallory to finish, and the light's on for you now, go ahead.
It's actually, your comments, I think, are more out of line than anything I've said tonight most of the time. So, and I really do take offense to you, you know, just talking about my personal life on the microphone. Just FYI. I don't talk about your personal life.
Thank you, Council Murphy. Let's try to keep everything on target, all the council. It's the last meeting, we get a little break from each other. All right, so now, Councilor Crowe, do you want to call the paper forward? I think you believe you need a second, we can move forward,
Yes,
correct?
I make a motion.
Oh, Council,
to
are you
refer
raising your hand
to-
in a second, or you want to speak? Okay,
I would say, don't say anything. No, I'm just kidding.
go ahead, Councilor.
Make a motion to refer paper 31522 to, for public hearing for the joint planning and ordinance committee.
Okay, on Council Linehan's motion to refer, Councilor, you all set this one referring? Because I'll read out to the record the ones you don't want to, okay? On Council Linehan's motion to refer to a joint planning and ordinance, seconded by Councilor Carrie McDonald. All those in favor, oh, you gotta do a roll call? Yeah, roll call.
Cologne Hayes. Yes. Condon. Yes. Crowe.
Yes?
Linehan. Yes. McDonald. Yes. Murphy. Yes. O'Malley. Yes. Seeker.
Yes.
Simonelli. Yes. Winslow. Yes. Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Okay, so we can get rid of that other paper, hopefully. Next paper, on Councilor,
So the next paper is, since I think the city clerk read them all at the beginning, but, so 316-22 is really changing that the marijuana establishment must be the principal use. It may not be, it may only be accessory to other marijuana establishments. That was, as we had the discussion when we talked about some of the establishments coming before us, that they have to be the principal use, the only thing that happens in that building. However, as Nelson Miller had pointed out, the example is the old Papagino's. That has multiple principal uses. You know, there's 10 different buildings in there. So when we have it really must be the only, it must be a principal use, but not the only principal use.
okay,
So again, this is just being referred to for hearing.
pretty self-explanatory. Any questions, comments? Okay, seconded. Councilor Winslow. On Council Linehan, this is your paper as well, too, correct, I believe? Okay, on Council Linehan's motion to refer to a joint planning and ordinance committee, clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Yes. Condon. Yes. Crowe.
Yes?
Linehan. Yes. McDonald. Yes. Murphy. Yes. O'Malley. Yes. Seeker. Yes. Simonelli. Yes. Winslow. Yes. Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes. Carries 11-0. Next order of business.
So paper number,
317-22.
22. This really has to do with the security plans. And so right now we have security plans required in two different areas. One's in the ordinance and one is in the Clerk, the cannabis licensing and enforcement. And this just kind of changes up to not have the redundancy of it. So it leaves it to the police chief, the design and the security approval by the police chief, and the Malden Cannabis Licensing Enforcement Commission. So again, this is going to hearing.
Okay, any questions? I am looking for a second. On Council Linehan's motion, okay, so Council Linehan, well, you're actually referring it. I don't know if I want to have you second it too, Councilor. Okay, on Council Simonelli. So on Council Linehan, you're sponsoring this one too, Council Linehan? Okay. On Council Linehan's motion to refer to a joint planning and ordinance, seconded by Council Simonelli, clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Yes. Condon. Yes. Crowe.
Yes?
Linehan. Yes. McDonald. Yes. Murphy. Yes. O'Malley. Yes. Seeker. Yes. Simonelli. Winslow. Yes. Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes. Carries 11-0. Next order of business?
Paper 318-22 is about, there is some confusion when we sort of wrote this, that the building commissioner needs to give them a building permit. But then the state, after they have their final approval from the state, but the state says they have to have a building permit to be able to get their final approval from the state. So this kind of cleans up that confusion, and it just really changes it to prior issuance of any, not building permit, but any final occupancy permit. So they can get the building permit, they need that to be able to build out what they need to do. And so we give them the final occupancy permit after they get the approval from the state. So it's just being referred to public hearing.
Okay, Council Linehan, this is your paper too? Okay. I need a second. Councilor McDonald, on Council Linehan's motion to refer to Joint Planning and Ordinance Committee, seconded by Council McDonald. Clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Condon.
Yes.
Crowe.
Yep.
Linehan. McDonald.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley. Sika. Simonelli. Winslow. Spatafor.
Spatafor, yes. Carries 11-0. Next order of business.
So paper 31922, which I think we're, Councilor Linehan had some concern, is this is just really changing, it's going to public hearing, but it is aligning the processes and the languages in all of our zoning thing. As we had talked about it, if we're changing some of these things for new buildings, again, they have to have variance, that's state law. For existing buildings, it is the special granting, usually the planning board, but the special granting authority to be able to make those findings. Not have to go for variances, but make those findings. So, for example, just kind of like we referred the first paper, it is for new buildings, a variance shall be required to grant relief from any non-compliance and dimensional controls, parking requirements of this ordinance. And then we added in buffer zones, because that was where it was a little confusing. But so, and then again, for the buildings that are already there, as long as they're not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So again, there's no increase in violation and dimensional controls or parking requirements may be allowed by special permit without a variance. So this just kind of puts them all. So the first, if you read the whole paper, the first one is around buildings over 6 stories. Number 2 is around institution businesses. There's a number of them. Preferably preserved, fast food services, restaurants, drive-throughs, gasoline filling stations, and that's it. So those 7. So it kind of puts all the language in the same in all of the different zoning. So I see a light on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Council Karen McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. So I just wanted to take a second to kind of explain how this came about to folks who are watching here, because it is confusing. We initially spoke in committee about, as Councilor Crowe said, trying to sort out, not to change any of the stipulations around the buffer zones, but whose purview is it to consider any application that doesn't immediately comply. I mean, even by 6 inches could be, non-compliance. And so how does that get considered? And we discovered that we didn't all quite have the same understanding of how that could work or how it could validly work. And so in working with our city planner, our city attorney, and our building inspector, we honed in on this understanding that the Board of Appeals, which has a quite narrow set of terms and responsibilities as defined by state law, can continue to do its process of granting variances for new builds. But for existing buildings that are being adapted, there was no ability for the council to, quote, grant any relief around that. That's a legal term that didn't make sense. But the council, as a special permitting authority, could have a finding that the application is not otherwise detrimental to the neighborhood, and thus grant the permit. And we in fact did that with a parking requirement with our last application. And so in sorting out the fine points of this language, our city employees came back to us and said, actually, this needs to be clarified in about 5 other sections where special permits are granted, so that we're really clear about this. So I just want to say, like, this felt confusing because we really needed to sort it out in a system-wide way, and I really appreciate them bringing forward this additional language to help so as I think Nelson Miller, our building inspector, said in the meeting, so this doesn't just live in my head, this clarification, but it's actually spelled out, so that the next person in that seat can make sure that it's clear. And so we'll discuss that with the planning board, but I just wanted to surface that's the intent here, is then to make sure that that process is parallel for all types of special permits, which has sort of been well, anyways, to clarify that and make it consistent across all the special permits.
Right.
That's all. And to say that there are other changes that we talked about in committee that are not related to the zoning board, to the planning board, that we just postponed, because we can change them without having to do this joint hearing. But in order to allow us to schedule the joint hearing, we put all of these Chapter 12 pieces together to be able to send them, to refer them on. So that's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Councilor McDonald. Councilor Melly.
Thank you for that overview, Councilor McDonald. One of the questions I had for the city planner, two questions. One is, are these set by law, these the required findings? Or is this something that we set by ordinance?
Our ordinance takes its findings from state law. It's not identical to state law, but it's essentially the same language. We could
But
say
it has
that.
to be the same finding?
No, does not have to be all the same findings,
It could be
no.
stricter or more?
Yes,
Okay.
the detrimental to the neighborhood standard is in state law, but it's also appears in state law as substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So different cities and towns have different takes on it. Ours has always been this way.
Okay. And then, I'm looking through these now, and I know that we talked, is there a correction of our, actually, never mind, I'll follow up with you offline. Thank you for this.
Okay, all set? Okay, any other
So
questions?
make motion to refer to.
Okay, so that's on Councilor, let me just get my notes straight here, hold on one second, that's paper,
And
319.
if Council
So that's on
Linehan
Councilor
prefers,
Crowe, I
I'll
do need a
put my
second.
name on this one.
Yep, I got Councilor Crow's name, I do need a second. Okay, on Councilor Crow's motion to refer to joint planning and ordinance, seconded by Councilor McDonald, all those in favor? Oh, Clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Condon.
Sorry.
Crowe.
Yes.
Linehan. McDonald. Murphy. O'Malley. Sika. Simonelli. Winslow. Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes, passes. So paper 320-22,
We
we're
are
gonna
not
skip,
taking
we're
up.
gonna skip over, right?
Yes.
You should
Yes.
probably disperse this.
You wanna, you wanna table it, or you wanna vote it down?
I mean, you could,
Yeah, we can vote it down, make a motion to deny,
I'd say we, make a motion to
because it gets all,
deny.
it cleans everything up.
Yep.
Okay, so that's Councilor, you wanna make a motion,
A
Councilor?
motion to deny, to not send to public hearing.
On
paper
Councilor Crow's motion
320.
to deny and not send to public hearing, seconded by Councilor McDonald. Clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Condon. Crowe.
Yes.
Linehan. McDonald. Murphy. O'Malley. Sika. Simonelli. Winslow. Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes. Motion is to deny, carried 11-0. Next order of business. I believe it's paper 2022, right?
Paper 321-22, committee report.
We're skipping this.
The Standing Committee on Personnel Appointments, to whom was referred papers 201-22, 276-22, 277-22, 303-22, having considered the same, make the following report.
Go ahead, Councilor Simonelli's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councilor Simonelli for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. We've got a few things going on here in the Committee on Personnel and Appointments. We've got paper 201-22, which the committee recommends to be voted out favorably to the full body. And I'll do them all at once. Also, 276-22, the committee recommends to table to the call of the chair because this individual, her husband has COVID, and she couldn't make tonight's interview, and we're breaking for the summer. If we need to get back into session of the call of the chair, in case we did have to fill this position, we'd be able to do so. Also on paper 277-22, the committee recommends to be voted out favorably. And under 303-22, The committee recommends to table this as well. So I've got two that's going on the floor tonight to be passed, and I have two that's going to be tabled to the call of the chair because one of the people couldn't come because of COVID, and the other one had a little technicality with their job that they have, and we're just waiting for a rendering to come in from the state to say that it's okay that they could take that position. Any other questions?
Okay, questions for Council Simonelli? Any questions for Council Simonelli? Wow, that's the first thing we haven't debated on.
I love that. So, you know what? With taking that little green light, I'm going to say that we want to vote out favorably to this full body, paper 201-22, and we want to vote out paper 277-22 to be voted out, those two to be voted out favorably.
We're gonna have the clerk read them both for the record, and then Council Con, I believe, seconded that motion anyway. So clerk, can you just read them both, please?
So paper 201-22 is being recommended favorably by the Personnel Appointment Committee. It's Risa Gray of 37 East Border Road, Malden, to full member status of the Planning Board, said term to commence upon her confirmation by the City Council and to expire March 1st, 2027. Risa, currently an associate member, will replace Patrick Fitzgerald, who resigned at the completion of his term.
On count, you want to read them both? We'll just do it both?
We can do it single.
Okay, we'll do them individually. On Council Simonelli's motion to confirm the appointment, seconded by Council Con, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing no noes, passes 11-0. Next order of business?
On paper 276-22, which the committee's recommending to table to the recess of the chair, it's mayoral appointment Stephanie Stone of 19 Pine Street, Malden, as an associate member of the Planning Board, sent term to commence upon confirmation by the City Council and expire March 1st, 2024, to complete the unexpired term of Charles Ferguson.
On Council Simonelli's motion to confirm the appointment, seconded by what? Table. Oh, we're going to table that one? On Council Simonelli's motion to table, seconded by Council Conan, all those in favor? Ayes have it, motion to table. Next order of business.
On paper 277-22, which the Personnel Appointment recommends favorable, it's a mayoral appointment. Vickers Verma of 85 Harvard Street, Malden, is an associate member of the Planning Board. Said term to commence upon confirmation by the City Council and expire March 1st, 2025, to complete the unexpired term of Risa Gray, who moved to full member status.
Don't we place this on file? We got to vote on this?
Yeah, we got to vote on this one.
It's a mayor's appointment, though. On Council Simonelli, you want a second, Council Conan? On Council Simonelli's motion to confirm the appointment, seconded by Council Conan, all those in favor? All those opposed? Seeing none and hearing none, item passes. Next order of business? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor. Council McDonald. Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
wanted to recognize
I got all
that
kinds.
Vickers Ron Verma's in the audience right now, and so congratulations.
Oh, you want to say anything? You want to step up and say a couple things? I know, I'll put you on the spot. You're sitting there. We gotta get some money out of you. Yeah, come on up. Introduce yourself. No objections? Okay. Welcome. Sorry about that. I apologize. I had multiple people in my head there.
That's all right, just try to keep it to 20, 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So I won't spend too much time up here. It's late, but just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to serve the city. I'm going to make sure I hit the ground running, work hard, and do the right thing out here. And we're going to do some great things in the city. So thank you for the opportunity, and let's get to work.
Thank you.
Welcome. Congratulations. So I believe now we're going to vote.
So the next paper is paper 30.
We didn't vote on that.
We did.
Did we vote on
We
that?
did, yeah.
I'm losing my mind.
Next
order of business.
Next paper is 303-22, which the Personnel Appointments recommended table. I think I read that, didn't I? No. Mayoral
it's the last
appointment,
one.
Helena Clark of 39 Acorn Street, as a member of the License Board, said term to commence upon confirmation by the City Council and to expire on June 1st, 2028, to fill the vacancy of Francis Lynn, who has stepped down from the board.
Okay, on Council Simonelli's motion to receive to confirm the appointment.
Table.
Where are you?
303-22.
Oh, wrong one. On Council Simonelli's motion to, this says confirm. On Council, right? Okay, it says Council confirm in this note. On Council Simonelli's motion to table, seconded by Council Conan, all those in favor? All those opposed? Item is tabled. Next order of business.
Paper 325-22, Committee Report, the Standing Committee on Public Properties, to whom was referred. Paper 287-22, having considered the same, make the following report.
Councilor Seeker for the, Councilor Seeker? Mic's on, yeah, what do you need?
Thank you, Councilor Spatafor. I would like to make a motion to not receive this committee report and table this paper.
Motion to table?
Motion to table.
You need a second? Second. Councilor Seeker's motion to table, seconded by Councilor Murphy. Clerk will call the roll. Oh, wait, Councilor,
Oh, sorry.
Winslow has a question.
Go ahead,
You all
Councilor.
set, Councilor Winslow?
My thought would be to accept the committee report and then just table any recommendation, so that way we can at
Well,
least
if we
go on record
receive
with-
the committee report, I might want it to go back into the committee.
Oh, okay, so
So
I didn't know.
if, that's why I stopped you before it.
Okay. you
Because
just-
if we bring it out of committee,
okay.
then how do I put it back in the committee?
You can always refer it back.
You can refer it back to committee, correct?
Okay, but if I do it this way, then I don't have to refer it back. We
You're
can
not
just,
getting the committee report.
we can put it back onto the committee, into a committee.
Okay, but we'll have the report from the minute. I just want to make sure we have on the minutes. I'll work with Lisa to make sure that the minutes. of
Councilor
the-
McNaught, can we ask him a question?
You can, absolutely. Councilor McNaught?
Councilor McNaught? What
Did you
would
look over
be-
your shoulder for a second? Did I catch you, like, see if there was another McNaught in the audience?
It's me. Truly.
I was just checking.
I apologize. So by not accepting the committee report, I can keep it in committee?
Well, yes, but the parliamentarian should be answering that question, but on the
That's
whole,
Cal-
the
that's-
answer
that's
is
Clerk
yes.
Lucy.
Sorry.
Yes, it could be done either way. It could be
Correct,
done as
either way.
suggested by chairman of that committee. So either way, it's going to
Okay.
work.
I'll defer to the chairman or the...
It doesn't matter to me, as long as we can put it back in the committee for further discussion.
For me, it's knowing that if we're gonna wait 2 months before considering, I just thought it would be good to make sure I get clear on record what we recommended, and then we can, table it and send it back on final.
Okay, so we'll start the committee
So,
report.
all right, so the
On Council,
basic,
let me just read it for the record, Council Winslow. On Council Winslow's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Councilor Winslow for the committee report.
okay, you didn't want to receive it, okay, so, okay. All right. All right.
No, my notes say two different councils' names. Go ahead, Council.
Okay, all right. So, the Public Properties Committee,
I don't even
reviewed
think we
this
need to
paper.
discuss this, Councilor Winslow. I have a table in motion.
Yeah, so I just want to go on record that the committee's report was that, to recommend that, the council, support a 6-month license to Bennett Highway LLC, for this property and to pay taxes. That was a report, and recommendation of the committee, so. And then I make a motion that we table that recommendation.
Okay, we already have a motion by Councilor Seeker, but it doesn't matter. Council Winslow, you can do it second. If you want to second it.
I'll second that motion, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
All right, so Council Winslow made a motion to table, seconded by Councilor Seeker. Clerk will call the roll for tabling. Yes means to table, no means not to table. Clerk will call the roll.
Cologne Hayes. Yes. Condon. Yes. Crowe. Yes. Linehan.
Yes.
McDonald. Yes. Murphy.
Yes.
O'Malley. Yes. Seeker.
Yes.
Simonelli.
Yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Spatafor, yes. Motion is tabled. Next order of business. The docket is clear. I believe we have a table paper, Councilor Winslow.
Yep, so I make a motion, to take off the table, let's see, what do we got? Paper 304-22 related to the regular station proposed for Lebanon Street by National Grid.
On council motions, council was a motion to, take the paper 253-3022 off the table, seconded by Councilor Condon. All those in favor? All those opposed? Paper 253 is, 22 is, on the table. Councilor Winslow for the paper.
All right, last week we did open a hearing on this particular thing, and we decided to table the paper and keep the hearing open so that we could hear from National Grid on the proposed project. This is, right now on Garden Street, there is a gas regulator system that is dated, and the proposal here is for National Grid to move that around the corner on Lebanon Street to upgrade that equipment. So, Mr. Cameron is here.
So,
from
Council Winslow, would you like to reopen the public hearing? Because we did table it, or do you want to open it up?
Did we actually close the public hearing?
We tabled it, but he would, Mr. Cameron would be speaking in favor of it, so I think we have to
All
open
right,
back
so,
up the committee report.
so I make a motion that we reopen the public hearing.
Okay, on Council Winslow's motion to reopen the public hearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, public hearing is open. I open up the public hearing. All those willing to speak in favor of the petition, paper number 253-22, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, council members. My name is Dan Cameron. I'm with National Grid, with offices here in Malden at 170 Medford Street. And thank you for allowing us to appear this evening. I was asked to, we have various folks on the gas side that are dispersed everywhere this evening. So, but as Council Winslow said, this is a replacement of a gas regulator station, which basically regulates the pressure. And it's currently on Garden Street. We're going to be installing a new regulator station, similar to what we've done in other parts of the city. I know there was one a couple of years ago on Maplewood Street. Very similar type of construction, all underground. And so, you know, we obviously need to grant the location from the City Council to do that.
Okay, any questions for the petitioner? Council Winslow, you still have the floor, Council Winslow?
Yeah, I know when I talked to the gas person from National Grid, one of the questions I had was the section of Lebanon Street where they'll be digging to connect in the gas line and disturbing the sidewalk, and that is in relatively bad shape. So I asked about National Grid doing maybe 100 feet of curb-to-curb restoration of Lebanon Street there, and I would be proposing that as a condition. Is that, do you have any questions, or is that an acceptable condition then, or just?
So what we normally would do in a case like this is obviously the sidewalk would be completely restored, and then we would come out to the center line, so it would be a curb to center line. That's what we would propose, but obviously we'll, it's.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's already kind of ripped up, and yeah, I guess I'd like to just see that done, curb to curb, and considering it's a busy street and this is a lot of disruption on the sidewalk and stuff like that, I guess I feel it's a different situation than just a pole or a typical trench or whatever. This is it's a shift in a major, at least a significant piece of infrastructure. So I think it's justified in repairing the street curb to curb here. So that would be one of the conditions I was looking at. And that, I guess there's no question, since we're removing the stuff on Garden Street, that a condition would be to restore the sidewalk on Garden Street, and then so that would be definitely a condition. I mean, I'd like to see if we can get a street tree pit in there as we're taking out the old gas line, and that we would have a spot to put a tree where that's taken out. Especially we can't put one on Lebanon Street. So, so that's I have gone out to the site, and it has been located sort of in between a couple properties in a good spot. I think if anybody's familiar, I think in the past few years on Charles Street, there's been some of this work going on too. So, they have like almost like a stainless steel grate that 5 feet wide and that type of thing. So it's flush to the sidewalk, and it's made out of material that's slip proof and stuff like that. So I mean, I think it's that same type of facility.
Exact same construction, right? Yes.
So I would just I mean, I don't know if we want to. If you have anything else to say, or just anything, if anybody have any other questions, but I will have some conditions I want to add on. But
Okay, anybody else want any other conditions on here before I open up any other questions? So Council Winslow, I don't see any of the councils, it's your ward, so why don't you add the conditions, and we'll
all right,
continue with the public hearing.
So, I guess the first condition would be that the new the regulation station be located per the plans that National Grid submitted on Lebanon Street.
Council Winslow, will you just send the notes to Clerk Lucy
Yeah,
after?
I will,
Okay.
and then, like I say, curb-to-curb replacement from 75 feet south of Garden Street, so that covers the
Taking the
corner.
construction,
Yeah, so the construction zone. Removal of the natural gas regulator at Garden Street that is being discontinued, and restoration of the Garden Street and Lebanon Street sidewalks as per what our usual conditions with DPW to the south.
As per the DPW.
And then, creation of a street tree pit on Garden Street as part of that replacement of the sidewalk. So those are the conditions.
Okay, I need a second on Council Winslow's motions. Okay, I get Simonelli, Council Simonelli's first, so Council Winslow's motion, seconded by Council Simonelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So those are granted.
All right.
Mr. Cameron, if you could stay, we'll finish the meeting. Actually, I want to just do one thing before we do continue with the meeting. Mr. Cameron called me today. We haven't seen him in a while, but I want to publicly say we are losing truly a friend, I think, and an asset at the city of Malden. Mr. Cameron informed me that after 40 years and 4 months, he will be retiring from National Grid, I believe, at the end of June. End of June.
Thank you, thank you.
So obviously an achievement to be in at one company for, I mean, it's probably changed names a couple times, but I know from my perspective, I know a lot of councils here, Dan was the go-to guy for several years with National Grid, the electrical side, and while we always didn't agree, Dan was a straight shooter, and when I did need help or a gas leak fixed or something done that was between committee meetings or just to be quite honest with you, a favor, Dan delivered every time for me, so I will certainly miss Dan, but certainly understand his retirement and his need to do that, but we were reminiscent. He remembered when he first started National Grid, he was in the old City Hall, and now he's probably having his last meeting in the new City Hall, so I just wanted the public to know that Mr. Cameron has been, you know, truly, this is the type of relationship that you want to have as a council, and certainly somebody who works with the City of Malden on a day-to-day operation, so truly I will miss Dan more than most people really understand, because like I said, favors were done, and that's the relationships that you build as a council, and certainly having somebody like Dan on your side with the utility company. So on behalf of me, Mr. Cameron, enjoy your retirement. Maybe you'll come back as a consultant, but I really appreciate it. So congratulations on your retirement and good luck.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yep.
So I was going to say, Council Winslow, you could have asked him for anything. He's leaving. He doesn't care. Council O'Malley.
Well, before you retire, I think back in like maybe 2016, 2017, National Grid planned on replacing a regulator pit on Washington Street between Clifton and Glenwood Street. It was tabled by the City Council back then because I believe the amount of time it was going to take to replace it and the fact that there was a bus route coming on that street really concerned us. We never took it up again. So if you could maybe reach out to your team about like what's the status of that regulator pit, I can write it down and provide it to you, at least from what I remember. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because Councilor Linehan and I just wanted to make sure that it was on National Grid's radar before you departed.
Okay, that was, Council, that was Clifton and Washington?
It was between Clifton and Glenwood on Washington Street.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I asked Dan for a double poll update too, so he's going to send me that list.
I'm sorry?
I asked him for a double poll update list before he
We'll
left,
get
so.
that too. All right, very good.
We got to give you a little homework. I mean, you know, we might
Absolutely.
never see you again.
I have another month, so.
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. So we have amendments which are passed favorably. Anybody else who want to come forward and speak in favor of this petition, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anybody else who wants to come forward and state your name and address for the record? 3 times, going once, going twice. I deem that portion of the meeting closed. Anybody who would like to speak against the petitioner, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anybody who would like to come forward and state your name and come forward and speak against the petitioner, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. And on the 3rd time, anybody who would like to speak against the petitioner, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none and hearing none, I deem that portion of the meeting closed. On Councilor Winslow's motion to pass with the amendment, seconded by Councilor Simonelli. All those in favor? All those opposed? Item is passed. All set, Dan. Good luck. Next order of business. Docket is clear. Councilor Crowe, you won Jeopardy. You are first.
I went a little ahead.
Everybody's
I
lights
just
on,
wanted to say that as we kick off the Independence Day festivities, first off, on Thursday, June 30th at 5:30 p.m. at Bell Rock Memorial Park, they used to do it at the library, but they'll be reading the instructions of the inhabitants of Malden, Massachusetts, and their representatives to Congress. So that declaration will be made at 5:30 at Bell Rock Memorial Park. In addition, this year, adding to the program is the Revolutionary War Black Soldiers Plaque. It's an exciting new addition, and they will be unveiling the renditions of the memorial that will be installed at Bell Rock Historical Cemetery, but we'll see what it looks like at the park on Thursday, June 30th, 5:30. So it's really to honor the service of the free and enslaved black soldiers of Malden who served during the Revolutionary War. The current memorial, which was installed in 1930, lists no black soldiers, and we know that there were, so now they finally will be recognized as they should be. So I hope everybody gets to come down on Thursday to be a part of that. And then so on the 3rd of July, I'll leave the 4th to my partner in crime, Councilor Condon. At Green Street Park, we'll be having our annual movie night. Before the movie starts at sundown, before the movie starts, we do have music and some activities and just lots of fun. Bring down a snack if you like, a beach towel, a couple of lawn chairs, some neighbors. We'll have some popcorn, some drinks, and we'll have a nice time at the annual movie night at Green Street Park. We start around 6:37, and the movie starts around sundown at 8:30, 8:45.
What's the movie?
The movie is Sonic, the sequel. Sonic.
So Sonic 2.
Yeah, that's it.
You all set,
Is that all
Councilor?
right with you?
You all set, Councilor Crowe?
I am for now.
Okay, Councilor Seeker's next.
Thank you, Councilor.
Everybody's
President.
lights on, FYI, so just.
You what?
Everybody's lights on.
Oh, everyone, I'm sure. I saw Councilor Crowe light hers up, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I better hurry up
Then
and
Councilor
light
Malley.
mine. But Ward 8 will be celebrating Independence Day on Monday, July 4th. Festivities start at 8:45 a.m. and run till noon. We have moon bounces, water slides, slip and slides, obstacle courses, the annual road races. We're so excited to have everyone back at the park this year after a 2-year hiatus. So we're looking forward to everybody coming down. We have basketball shootouts and all kinds of fun. So we hope that you can join us this Monday, July 4th at 8:45. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Seeker. Councilor O'Malley.
I just want to also announce Ward 4's Independence Day celebration. Ward 4 will be having it on July 2nd, 2022. It's one of the only things former Councilor Kinnon and I agreed on. It was the actual date that the Declaration of Independence Day was signed, and so it's the true Independence Day. It will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. At Quartermilly Park, which is directly across from the post office and near the DCR pool. This really cute little flyer here will be posted around the ward. It's on City Hall right now. It was designed by Carrie Percival. I want to thank Carrie Percival for her amazing work. These are some of the great local artists that we have. Looking forward to seeing people there on July 2nd, Independence Day.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, two more. I want to personally thank Chief Kevin Molis for his service. We found out this week that he will be retiring at the end of the fiscal year. We have worked together for many years now. We haven't always seen eye to eye on every issue. There's been a lot of great discussion and a lot of growth in our community when it comes to these tough discussions, and I do appreciate that Chief Molis was willing to have those conversations. I think we've made a lot of progress under Chief Molis, and I do think our community is in a completely different place than it was when he took over. I do want to congratulate Glenn Cronin. It's been great working with him. He's always been respectful and helpful and diligent in picking up phone calls, and I do appreciate that, and I look forward to working with him. The last thing I want to talk about is the light in the courtyard. You know, there's been a lot of discussion over the years about lights in the courtyard. Early on, we were able to add a ton of lighting into the courtyard to get some light. It was not sufficient. There was lighting added, thanks to Councilor Spatafora, up on the private property of the Heritage, which helped from that respect. But, you know, we've been really trying to get new light poles in the plaza. We do think that an additional light pole is needed by the crosswalk on Pleasant Street. It's very dark there. We have a lot of seniors. We have people coughing in the audience because of the lack of light. So we do really think that it's important that we get light poles right where the crosswalk is for our seniors' safety and health, and making sure that people do stop at the stop signs and stop at the crosswalk. I do want to thank Harold. He's always in the audience here, very diligently holding us accountable. You know, he tries to talk to elected officials. A lot of people, not me, seem to try to sneak away, hide in the bushes whenever he comes around. But I do think it's really important that we actually engage with our constituents and get the job done. So I am calling on our city to get this done in a timely manner. It shouldn't wait till election time to add a light pole installed. You know, we shouldn't be holding up safety improvements because of who is asking. So I do request that a light pole be installed. I have been working with the Public Facilities Director, Eric Rubin. He's been super helpful figuring out where we can put that in, and I do look forward to getting it done in a timely manner. One additional thing, thanks to Harold, we have one door on City Hall that has an automatic opener. The problem is 5 feet later, you encounter a door that does not have an automatic opener. While that might comply with the building code, it is not accessible for our seniors and people with disabilities. I'd like to get that done in a timely manner. It shouldn't take as long as changing the sign on City Hall. We had City Hall spelt wrong for like over a year. It would be really helpful if we got that done. So I am calling on the city to get that done in a timely manner, and I look forward to an update in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the Ward 5 July 4th celebration will be on Monday, July 4th. It's running from 10 to 2 p.m. We have a fully packed day with bake-off, bicycle parades. If it has wheels, you can decorate it, doll carriages, wagons, scooters, etc. We also have a bake-off and awards for the most patriotic child, baby child, teenager, adult, and family, as well as many games and all kinds of inflatables. So we hope you'll come down and have a hamburger and hot dog with us, and I will look forward to seeing you. Have a happy 4th.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple things. So this Thursday, we're going to have the final community meeting of the Fellsmere Pond Master Plan Project. That's going to be on Zoom at 6 p.m. Anybody who's interested, you can visit cityofmalden.org/Fellsmere to get the Zoom link. And then, of course, we'll be hosting our own 4th of July party at Amherst Park on Monday the 4th, starting at 10 a.m. I know many of you are helping in a lot of ways on all the parks, so thank you for everyone who's pitching in. We're going to have bouncy castles, slip and slide, face paint, balloon animals, not live animals, as somebody asked me today. And a bunch of other fun things, so all are welcome. Hope to see you down at Amherst starting at 10 a.m. And then the last thing is I just wanted to quickly read a letter that I received from Yin Kiefer, who's one of my constituents. She was also the founder of Porch Fest, and she had a letter that she wanted to communicate to us that I offered to read to all of us during my personal privilege. So just briefly, to the Malden City Council, we at Malden Porch Fest appreciate all the work that our elected officials do day in and day out, often at odd hours while juggling a multitude of constituency demands. You're there for all of us. You've been there for Malden Porch Fest from the beginning. As I presented our plan for Porch Fest to you all back in February, your support was heartening. In the months that followed, from our fundraiser at Hugh O'Neill's in March to seeing you in attendance at the event on June 11th, your presence was felt and appreciated. There's a few individuals in the meeting that I'd like to acknowledge specifically for their participation. Our committee, who all volunteered their time and energy, wore multiple hats as can be expected with such a small but effective group of individuals. The accomplishments about to be mentioned do not represent the entirety of their contributions, which were many, too many to list here, but the most critical. I'm gonna skip my own section because I think we don't need to toot my own horn that much, but I'll skip to the next counselor mentioned, which is Counselor Hayes. We thank you for your work coordinating porch site visits. You assembled a great team of volunteers, including yourself, to visit each person who wished to open up their property to support free live music in Malden. Your team of friendly, caring individuals were the first faces porch hosts met. 40 to 50 of the sites who signed up were well vetted for safety and visibility, and as a result, there were no accidents on June 11th. Spectators, which conservatively averaged around 55 people per site, could enjoy viewing acts in hospitable surroundings, and your support and energy throughout the entire project were indispensable. Councilor McDonald, we thank you for your generous contribution to the Malden Warming Center for sound services. The Afro-Funk Ensemble, not Afro-Punk, right? Huge difference. Called days later specifically to thank us for making them feel welcome and not having to pay out of their own pocket to perform as volunteers. They'll definitely spread the word to colleagues for next year and are excited to come back. Councilor Murphy, we thank you for offering up the Malden Public Garden performance space that day and for your compassionate communication with your musicians upon hearing about a death in their family which prevented them from being able to perform. Although this first year was a breath of fresh air after the pandemic, yours, along with a few other performance sites, felt the reverberations of illness, emergencies, and death, and we thank you for being gracious. There are more individuals who will be recognized for their contributions at this year's VIP party, which is currently being planned for August, so please be on the lookout for your invitations. Again, thank you all for supporting an event Malden can be proud of. We look forward to an even better event next year. Respectfully, Yin Kiefer. So I just wanted to highlight that all for you, and it was an amazing event, and I look forward to doing it again with even more sites around the city next year. And that's all I've got.
You want to mention the final meeting, Council Lina? I did. The Fellsmere? Yeah. Did you say it? I'm sorry. I must have zoned out. I apologize. I'm getting like you, Council Con. Council Winslow.
All right, thank you very much. I just also wanted to say there was a great ceremony this morning for Greg Lucy's dad, former Mayor Ed Lucy, for dedicating the courtyard. I want to thank Councilor DeMaria and everybody for their help on doing that. It was just a nice ceremony and just a great way. A lot of both Mayor Lucy and former Mayor Howard were there, and a lot of former councilors, and a lot of you were there, so it was just a nice ceremony. Also, just wanted to know, like last month, we had the A-Voice students come, and they sent me a very nice thank you note, and it's just really nice to see that. Just a little, like, thank you for your support. The seniors at A-Voice cannot wait to be active members in our community, and so that was just a really good spirit. And I think the other great thing is that last week we did have the MBTA came specifically to talk about the bus redesign in Malden, and I think because of some of the stuff from A-Voice, we're hopeful of some ideas to particularly try to keep a bus on Commercial Street, which was one of the things they really emphasized, and maybe even having a bus that would go from east to west that would both get the market on Commercial Street and the one on Broadway. So it was a good meeting, and having the input from the youth was very important. And then finally, at Trafton, at Ward 6, we're having on 4th of July from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're a little early risers, I guess, for that. But we'll be having our annual 4th of July at Trafton Park, and so we will have our races and jumpy houses and slides, the annual basketball toss, and we do have live animals. We are having some ponies for pony rides and that. So in food and fun for everybody, we're going to try something different called the TikTok talent show to see how maybe in 30 seconds people can show off their talents. So we'll see how that works. But thanks to the committee that's been helping organize that, we're looking forward to it, and hopefully it all will work out. Thanks. Great. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Council Winslow. Going down the line, Councilor Karen McDonald.
Well, you're not making the ponies, right? You're just, not like you're making the balloon animals. And So just a couple of things. I want to echo the point that Councilor Winslow made about the bus network redesign of the MBTA. They are still accepting feedback, I think, through July, and I really encourage every resident in the city to go to mbta.com/BNRD, or just go to BNRD feedback if you just want to go straight to the survey and make this point about not losing these key stops on Commercial Street and not losing an east-west connector to the city. So the redesign is redoes the whole map of buses in the greater Boston area, and we don't want to lose those key connections for our city where so many of our residents are transit dependent. Two other things I wanted to note. One is that to remind folks of the upcoming summer festivals that we still have in the city. I'm a member of the Business Support ARPA Subcommittee, along with Kashana Harling and Kevin Duffy. And the remaining ones are a Murder at the Malden Bank pub crawl on July 9th, and July 30th in the evening, and then the two summer festivals downtown on July 16th and August 13th, both 12 to 4. So I'm sure folks will turn out for those. And just one other thing to watch for, I have worked with our Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development to submit a grant application for a climate action plan, to fund a climate action plan. And so we very much hope to have an announcement about that soon. I don't have one to share tonight, but that if we are awarded that grant, that will help us pull together the threads of climate resilience and lowering greenhouse gas emissions and how that interacts with our natural space. This is something that a lot of communities around us have done, and it's been really, really effective to get us clear about how all our systems need to work together and where we need to go to get to net zero 2050. So special thanks to Deb Burke and Emily Granhoff and OSPCD for helping make that application happen, and for MAPC and their partnership, and stay tuned to hear if we are able to move forward with that grant.
How much is the grant cost, though?
The grant is for $75,000, I believe, plus additional technical support from MAPC.
Good, great. You all set, Council?
I'm good.
Council Simonelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that we're going to have in Ward 7 our annual 4th of July celebration, like everybody else. Well, it's going to be on Sunday, July 3rd at 9:30 at Lincoln Commons until 2 o'clock. And we pretty much got all the same thing everybody else got. So come on down and taste a little Ward 7. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Thank you. Council Condon.
Yes, this is my flyer. But you can't see it because he insists on.
I didn't move it.
Okay. No, we're having our party on the 4th. My partner, Peg Crow, and myself. We definitely need some volunteers to help us out. We got a lot of the small kids with the duck pond and the beach ball kick, and if you can just help us out, whether it's an hour or two, making sure they're safe on the rides. They got pony rides, races. I got 500 hoodsies I got to give out. I don't care if you eat 100. Give away the 400. But if you can come down and give us a little time, I'd really appreciate it. I am old. Thank you. Oh, Deva Park.
Thank you, Councilor Condon. Councilor Karen Cologne Hayes. Hold on one second. Let me shut this mic off and turn this mic on. There you go.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I've committed myself to a couple of parties, or else I would volunteer and help you out, Councilor Condon. But I will be bouncing around. I want to thank actually some of the ward councilors for holding them on different days, because I'll be able to kind of pop around. But when I see you, put me to work. No worries. I'll check in with you. So I want to just wish everybody a happy 4th, and hopefully we'll see you out and about. I want to also say, please, to go off of what Councilor McDonald was saying. I was at the MBTA meeting, and it was amazing how many people from our residents came and checked in with some really, really great suggestions. So hopefully they got that all down. It was a great meeting. Also, I want to congratulate the North Shore Haitian Adult Day Health Center today after the dedication of the courtyard. I went over and they celebrated 5 years of being in service here. It was excellent. I got to dance a lot of bachata and salsa. They dance the same types of music, eat some good food, so that was a lot of fun. And other than that, I will see you all on some of the days during the 4th celebration. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, is there anybody else? Yeah, on behalf of myself, it's great to be a counselor at large these times because there's a lot of work that goes on between the ward councils, and I really, Malden's very unique. I say it every year. There's not a lot of other communities that do what we do, especially at the ward-based level. So while the councils did get a little bump up, a lot of the money is either coming out of the council's pocket or they fundraise for these events. I know Council Condon, Council Seeker, and Council Crowe have always been doing something year-round to give out the prizes they do. So it's very important just to come down and, not only get to see your neighbors, but enjoy some of the festivities. I was surprised nobody mentioned it, but I do want to give a shout out. I believe Kevin Duffy and probably, I don't know, the mayor's office, the Phantom Gourmet in the square this weekend was, to be quite honest with you, I didn't know what to expect. We came down with my wife, but I was not only thoroughly impressed, I was very impressed, not only just on the parking situation and the route. I came down here about 7:45 that morning to grab my coffee, walked my dog, and lo and behold, there was a bunch of city staff waiting to inspect all the cooking apparatus. So Nelson Miller, his team, there were some firefighters that went through for the permitting, ready to go. But Mr. Duffy was down here. Several members from the mayor's office was here just getting the cones up. But a very, very good job. I think a lot of work goes into that, and it really a great way to showcase Malden and certainly the square. So I want to give a shout out not only to, I think, Kevin Duffy, but certainly the Phantom Gourmet for choosing Malden. Hopefully they choose it again next year. It was a great time. I also want to mention, it's amazing. I went to the Converse reunion at the library, and it was amazing to see all the distant relatives from a family that impacted this community, not even just 150 years or 200 years ago. Literally to this day, there is money that is in that fund for Pine Banks, which was their summer home, hard to believe, or campsite at one time. And there's a lot of history there. And for them to come back and recognize the importance of Malden, but more importantly, what they've done for the community and highlighted the library and Councilor McDonald, the pub crawl, which was based on the first, I believe, bank robbery in the city of Malden. Just a lot of history that I think we overlook at times. I know I do. But the commitment by this family to come to the city on their own dime really resonated with me in terms of the city of Malden. So a lot of great festivities planned, a lot that happened last weekend, and certainly Councilor Linehan mentioned the Porch Fest, a lot of great things and a lot of opportunity. So pretty proud to be a Maldonian these days. And with that, I will take a motion to recess to the call of the chair, on Councilor Simonelli's motion to recess to the call of the chair, seconded by Councilor Condon. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Enjoy your summer.